The following program contains strong language, very strong language, adult situations, possible alcohol use, definite drug use, and possible wombat sodomy. Viewer discretion is advised. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and everyone and everything in between. This is Roger That. Today is Tuesday, the 8th of November, 2022, and my guest tonight I'm very, very excited about, an absolute legend in the world of transcontinental motor sports. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Charlie Safari Wilson.
Good evening. How's it going?
We're good, man. How you doing? Or good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm resisting the urge to start day drinking, so I'm just making a cup of tea for the conversation. But yeah,
I got to say, for my normal audience, that day drinking, you'd fit right in with us. I mean, we appreciate that.
It's perfect, but it's a work day. Sadly for me, I'm kind of sat in work in my office in my junkyard.
All right. So the first thing I got to ask is, how'd you get the nickname Charlie Safari, man?
Funny enough, it was from years ago where we used to go disco dancing. So we had we used to dress up and go out for like nights out dancing, and we used to be kind of like Saturday Night Fever, basically. So I used to wear proper safari suits, flared trousers, big wide collared shirts, medallions, all that kind of jazz. And my nickname, rather rubbishly, was Rico Suave. And I was like, well, that's not very good. I don't like it. So we all changed our names. And I was called Charlie as a kid by my uncle. And we decided that they said, well, why didn't you call yourself Charlie Safari? Because you always wear safari suits. And that was it. That's how we became Charlie Safari. We used to turn up at the clubs and they used to introduce us when we came on. And we used to have off the cuff one. We used to have our own theme tunes. So
That's
I would
awesome.
come on and I would dance to He's the Greatest Dancer by Odyssey, I think it was, wasn't it?
That I don't know. I wasn't big into disco. Still not.
Oh, it was great. I was big into dance and disco just followed, right?
Yeah.
I used to be a heavy metaler, which I kind of still was. I still am, really. I still love rock music and stuff even now. But I've got to be honest, I went out one night years ago as a teenager, and we were all in our heavy metal jackets with a long hair, doing a standard looking grumpy, listening to Metallica kind of thing. And we went to a nightclub and there was disco, and all the girls were on the dance floor. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to dance. And that was it, man.
Awesome.
Like the next weekend, I came back and I had a big collared shirt. And I'd cut my hair with a perm and shit. Like people were just like, "What the hell?"
Now let me ask you this though: you did that because the girls were on the dance floor. Did it work?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it worked. Everybody loves a man who can dance, or
That's
likes
what I
to
love.
dance. I once got called the White James Brown, which I thought was quite good.
Hey, the hardest working man in show business, right there. I mean,
yeah, dude,
he was till he's dead.
Well, yeah, he was mostly the hardest working man because he never slept because he was on PCP half the time. But he was an amazing artist.
We're not going to talk about that. We got a listener, Peter. What's going on? Yes, it's the chef man. And no, he's not from South Africa, you dick. He's from New Zealand.
Actually, I'm Welsh originally. I'm from Wales. So I've got a really, really fucked up accent.
Yeah, you are all over the place, though. What's funny is when I called you earlier to apologize, I had to apologize. He's in New Zealand. I'm in Florida. Time zones. I fucked up the time. So when I called you earlier, I got off the phone with you. My wife's like, I love his accent.
I had to change it a little bit because nobody could understand me. So this is me slightly slowed down. I'll try my best to keep slow. That's why I'm drinking tea.
See, now what's funny is I can understand you, but at least you're not Scottish.
No, because otherwise I'd be like, oh, I would not like, I would be like, oh, hey.
I have a friend who's Scottish, and every time I talk to her, I have to ask her to try and say the words "purple burglar alarm." Scottish people, for some reason, they can't say it.
Burglar. They use burglar. They can't do it. They just can't. It's not in there. It's not there.
It's weird. It's a and they're what you would think are simple words. They just can't get it. So,
What does somebody say? If you say beer can, you just sound like Jamaican saying bacon. Beer
okay.
can.
Now, if you were gonna talk about, well, actually, Michael Caine. Think about how
Oh
he
yeah,
says his
I
name.
love Michael Kidd. I love Michael Kidd.
But if you think about the
Cockney.
way he says how does he say his name? My cocaine.
Yeah, my name is Michael Caine. Yeah,
My cocaine. You say my
yeah.
cocaine, you're saying Michael Caine like he says his own name.
Oh,
So
good God. I never thought about that.
now you're thinking about that.
I am
Now
thinking
every
about that.
time,
You're right.
now every time something comes on, it's got Michael Caine in it. I'm like, my cocaine.
He's that man's a legend, but he's always played like he's played like exactly the same voiced Cockney in everything. But he's just
Yeah,
very good at that.
but that's why we love him. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything he was in that I hated. I mean,
Jaws 4. Jaws 4 is shit. Jaws
all
4
right.
is the worst film that ever existed. Michael Caine said, this is Michael Caine's own quote. He went, "It was a terrible film, but I live in a very nice house."
That's fair. You know what?
He bought me his house.
But see, I just said I can't think of a Michael Caine. See, I didn't even think of that one because it's just so shit. It wasn't even a thought.
Oh my God, there's a shark. He's like, "Are you meant to be American? What's going on?" Like, I don't get it. Like, where's this accent from?
I'm gonna have to watch it again just for fun. So,
No, don't save yourself the horror. Watch The Hand instead. That's way better.
all right, I'll take your advice on that. So for those who don't know who my guest is, and there's a very good chance you might not, which is sad. Everybody should know who you are. You are a legend in the Cannonball circles. You founded and organized the C2C Express, which is for any of us who grew up in the United States from the 80s on. We're all familiar with the Cannonball Run with Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise, that all-star cast of awesomeness. Like that was, ever since I saw that movie, I've wanted to do a Cannonball. I haven't yet. I'm working on it.
You
Bills
should. It's
and
amazing.
adult shit.
It's an American rite of passage to drive one side to the other side of the country. Even if you do stop, but driving one side to the other, like that is just, it's an amazing trip. Like it really is. Like it's mind melting.
The closest I've come so far is driving from Phoenix, Arizona to Florida, back home.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's a good chunk of distance.
Yeah, I mean, it was all I-10 and then I-75 down. So it was 2 roads, but not challenging. Did it solo, but it was a good time.
If you're not doing the run, it's good to go on the back roads, because back roads America is just truly a wonderful thing. Back roads America is one of the greatest things ever. So it's like the pyramids to me,
That was my thought as I was driving. I mean, you're driving through Texas. It's pin straight. It's flat. Then you hit some hills. Then it's flat again. But I'm looking around. I'm like, this is just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I drove most of that ride. Now, I wasn't pressing for time. I wanted to get home, but I wasn't trying to make time. I was just enjoying the ride. The vehicle I was driving had a defect. I could only go 82 miles an hour. But it was like I drove a huge stretch with the windows down and the radio off, just enjoying the sound of the road, the wind, and the view.
When you're doing that, like especially when you're doing it like competitively, like we drove across the country, and all of a sudden you're sitting there watching the sort of the desert unroll into daylight. Man, that's an incredible experience. You've been behind the wheel of a car then for probably at least 12 to 14 hours, and it's just an amazing thing to see when you start to see the first sunrise, then you see a sunset, then another sunrise. But watching the sunrise come up over the west when you're going through the desert is mind-meltingly cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One of these days, like I said, that's on my bucket list to do. Now, what got you hooked? Was it the movie that got you hooked to come here?
So
I mean, you're not from this country, so.
No, when I was a kid, I grew up in a small town called Tredegar in South Wales, and it's a little coal town, very similar to coal towns in America, I guess, but maybe a little smaller. And there were no American cars, or hardly any American cars. I mean, we would walk miles to look at like a Mustang, or somebody would say there's a Cadillac, and we would jump on our bikes and we would ride. Oh man, we would ride 20, 30 miles to look at cars, like me and my best mate Ian Jones. And eventually we met a guy who kind of used to sort of look after us, called Dave Morris. And he had a Mustang, and he was like a member of an American car club. So we spent all the time down there building cars, and he would lend me CDs, LPs, and he would do me mixtapes. and he would show me car movies. He used to send me home with like a video recorded off the TV car movie, like like two-lane blacktop and things like that. And when I was growing up, my old man used to buy, because I was obsessed with cars, just totally obsessed. And then it would be in the late 70s sometime. I got the copy of Car and Driver. I think it was May 76. I think it was the one with the Porsche and the Trans Am and everything on the front cover. And I read that story, and I was just blown away. It was like, whoa, people race across America coast to coast. People drive coast to coast, and they race across. And I was like, what the hell? This is amazing. And at the same time, coincidentally, they just planted Cadillac Ranch. So it would have been 79, right? And my favorite car magazine came up with, they showed the sunset picture of Cadillac Ranch.
I know that picture.
Man, I was done. That was right there. That was it for me. I was like, that's it. I'm in love with America. I'm going to America. I was like, 6 years old. I wasn't even 6. I was 5 probably. And I'm like, I am going to America as soon as I can. And I'm going to race the Cannonball. I'm going to check out all this stuff. Then I got obsessed with Route 66. I used to watch I got really into road trip shows. Like, remember Route 66?
Yeah.
You ever seen that with the two guys in the Corvette? Yeah, like they would go and have adventures places. And
yeah, I remember that show.
Well, that was like the theory of the 70s, wasn't it? That was like guys having adventures, driving around. Scooby-Doo prepped me for it. I was just going to drive around to the van and have adventures.
But then there was like Easy Rider, on the motorcycles. And then those car movies came out like, you had Route 66, but then you had, the Cannonball Run, Smokey and the Bandit, Convoy. Was Convoy?
Convoy was a road movie. Yeah, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. These are brilliant ones. Yeah. Vanishing Point. I mean, Vanishing Point is another film that I remember watching, just being like, what the hell, man? What the hell? I couldn't get my head around it, And like, even Mad Max is a road movie, so
yeah.
But it's those type of films. I mean, really, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot is the one that hardly ever anybody watches. But that's like a fabulous, like not like Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry as well, But all those films are fabulously sort of nihilistic 70s road journeys through everywhere. Two-lane blacktop, Just what are you doing? I'm driving from town to town to race people. What a great idea that is.
So I just saw that you hosted a screening of the movie Used Cars.
Yeah, it's going Saturday. This Saturday we're going to do it. I'm so excited. Honestly, I'm just like blown away by how good this is going to be.
I was stoked. A few months ago, they did a screening, a couple theaters throughout the country of Smokey and the Bandit. And
yeah, absolutely.
But the whole idea of hosting those is damn brilliant.
Yeah, well, we're excited because I used to host them in my house, so I'm a movie buff as well. Obviously, because I've just talked about movies for 5 minutes, right? So I loved movies, and we used to host them in my house. So I'd get a car club in, and we would all come in and watch films in my house. And we would watch anything, like ludicrous films, What was that film I was watching? Bobby, Joe and the Outlaw. Have you seen that?
Okay. No.
Linda Carter's breast. You get to see Linda Carter, Wonder Woman's breast.
Don't go any further. I'm already sold.
She's fired a machine gun into crowds. It's honestly, it's the most batshit movie I've ever seen, but it really is like a gem. And I showed that at the car club, and everybody was just like, "Are we about to see Wonder Woman?" I was like, "Yeah, we all are," and you do, and it's amazing. I mean, that is the thing that sticks in your mind. But there is an amazing car chase at the start of it too. But it's the same nihilistic 70s kind of like drifting around the country, hanging around with you, well, in this case, Robin Banks, but there was always that just going nowhere, hanging around off to see America, like Easy Rider. They took that thing and ran with it all through the 70s. And I mean, if you ever drive to Monument Valley or something like that, it is literally a heart-stopping moment of like, you got to stop the car, get out and go, fuck me, look where I am, look at this. I'm like in the middle of a John Ford Western. It's just, if you come from somewhere else, it's double the impact, I think. But as Americans, it's your duty to see the country.
See, and I absolutely agree with that. I'm trying to see as much as I can as I get older. Benny Mack is watching. He says, boom, watching live during my lunch break. Benny, welcome. Thank you for watching.
Yo, Benny.
There are so many things in this country, and just the diversity in landscape, and you got desert, you have forest, you have mountains, you have rivers, you have beaches, everything and anything, tropical paradises, frozen tundras. We have it all, and we take it for granted, which is actually sad.
Well, yeah, and what you're losing a lot of now is the historic America. You're losing parts of it, like you're losing a lot of '66, and
Yeah.
that sort of that pop culture era, I guess. So, when do we call it? What do you? There's a sick name for it. You call it. I can't remember what it is, but it's that era from the sort of '30s to about the '70s, and it's like a fabulous era of stuff, neon and advertising signs and everything. And like,
Oh,
it's just mind blowing. It's all disappearing. You know.
and that's sad. And they, the mother road, they call it. And I've seen even recently people taking trips down, and it's not even anything close to what it used to be.
But
It's
it's not even anything since because I first went to the States in 1993. So I inherited some money. Well, I inherited some money at 18. It wasn't an inheritance. It was like my grandparents saved some money for me, and they said, whatever you want to do with it, you can go and do whatever you want. Now I went out to go buy a new motorbike, and my uncle said, well, why are you doing that? You've always wanted to go to America. You should go there. And I was like, Thomas, you're stupid. And I was like, wait a minute. He's exactly right. That's what I should do. So when I was 18, just after my 18th birthday, I flew into LA and bought a motorbike and rode around the States. And it was, it was a amazing thing. And I rode down Route 66. And it was
that's awesome.
Yeah, I bought an old Honda 450 out of somebody's garden for $125. I think he'd fallen off it, didn't want to repair it, so repaired it on the side of the street in LA. And I just rode it around. I went to Canada on it, but it was when I went there first, there was so much of it was preserved, right? I mean, like people had walked away. There was a couple of some gunshot cars outside, maybe the odd broken window, but otherwise it was generally untouched. And now people are taking things apart with sledgehammers. What the hell, man? Like people got there, like it's not just graffiti, they're literally destroying things with sledgehammers. I mean, who goes on the road and goes, hey man, do you bring the sledgehammer just because we need to destroy a town?
That's what they call progress, man. It's sad.
Yeah, it is. And nobody wants to get together and do it. And along the road, there are so many disheartened people, and I love America, right? Don't get me wrong. When I go to the States, I love it. And I'll turn up at a place and I'm like, I guess I'm a bit of a live wire because I'm like, man, I love this place. This is so good. Why aren't you doing something with it, And some people actually listened and they've actually done a bit, and it's really nice to see the next time you go back that things are improving or, things I keep telling people to go and see. Like, finally, people are starting to do some things with it, but we got to stop it and get into preservation of it immediately,
I agree. And to me, that thrill of the open road, I mean, when Trump was president, it was "Make America Great Again" was a slogan. And as I was driving across through Texas, I'm thinking like, make America start driving again. That the open road, the road trip, Vacation, the movie Vacation, the driving down Route 66 from Chicago to LA.
Like one of my favorite films ever. Yeah, absolutely. And they show you that. They show you what it's like to be on the road, right?
Yeah. I
can happen out there.
What's that?
Anything can happen out there. Anything.
Anything can and does happen.
Yeah, it's just astounding. And the stuff you get invited to do, you'll turn up somewhere and somebody, hey man, do you want to go and drive a monster truck? You're like, oh, okay. Yeah, that would be great. Thanks. Why not? We call it the random chaos generator. The more you throw yourself into chaos, the more chaos comes to the party and the more you get to do stuff you would never have done.
I agree with that. I like that.
Yeah. So just get in the car, go drive. Check it out. Go see stuff.
Do it. Listen to this man. He knows what the hell he's talking about. So you came to the States when you were 18. You drove around. You toured on your motorbike. You went up to Canada. You saw the sights. I'm guessing you went back before you made your first transcontinental run.
Yeah, man. I didn't make it till I was nearly 40. I think I was 40. Well, yeah, I was 20. I was 40 by the time I did my first run. And I just always thought the Cannonball would come back. I was just waiting for it to happen. So I just waited for it to happen. Like, you think that one day somebody's going to resurrect it, and there was talk about it. And so Brock Yates talked about it once or twice, and one lap was going, And then eventually you start getting older and you think, well, if I don't do this, well, am I going to do it? I've been to the States a few times, but 2013, I came back over and I was working. Well, I was working as a journalist, but I got a little assignment to go on to cover Lambrecht Chevrolet. The big Chevrolet auction where they put all the brand new cars in the field.
Okay.
You know about that? Yeah. So I went to cover that and I thought, man, what am I going to do? And I thought, well, let's do this properly. I'll go buy a car at random on eBay. It was at the time. So I was like, cool, what am I going to buy? And I just literally randomly looked around the country, and I ended up buying a 76 Gran Torino in
Ooh, all right.
Denver in red. Starsky and Hutch, right? But it was a 4-door. And the guy's like, yeah, I'm demo derbying it. It doesn't run, and I won it for $210, I think. So I turned up to buy this non-running piece of shit in like Denver. And man, like we got it running. It was just the ignition box, and it ran like a champ. It had a 400 in it. I took it out and like immediately did Starsky and Hutch in Denver, Colorado. I mean, the statute of limitations is gone by now. So anybody who saw it going sideways around the shop, like literally through alleys and smashing through bins, that was us. We had an awesome time. We drove it to Lambrecht, and everywhere we went, I said, hey, would you all be, this is 2013. So we were like, would you all be interested in if we did a Cannonball run, would you think there's any interest for that? Would you do it? And I thought people might just say, hey man, that's dangerous. That's ludicrous. There's no way you can do it. But everybody said yes. Like everybody. People are sick of just sitting around not doing things. Everybody wants to go and do something fun.
And I think, to me, doing something like the Cannonball run, making it, even if you're not pushing it for time, like you guys did the musket ball. Were you up here for the musket ball?
No, I was trapped in COVID, stuck New Zealand. I couldn't go anywhere. I was in lockdown. I was in basically escaped from New York.
Man, watching Ed's videos and everybody's videos from that, I'm sitting in my living room being like, God damn, I want to be part of that. I want to do that. I have a piece of shit car that's got 90 horsepower. What the hell? I should do this.
Anybody could do it. That was the thing about musket ball. It was really the chance that everybody had to do. It was the same we did with it. I mean, the reason that we ran the C2C is we aimed it somewhere between the movie and reality. So we wanted it just to be kind of fun. We didn't want it to be super dangerous. So we didn't want people because the first time I touted the idea of the Cannonball run, I had a guy with a Lamborghini who was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, I'll pay for everything. I'll pay for all the start stuff, and it'll be, I'm like, oh, cool. And he starts talking about his car, and I'm like, how long have you had it? And he sort of just bought it, and he didn't really have any track experience or anything, or he never. And he was like, yeah, well, he just goes fast as you can. And I thought, it just seems like a one-way hide into nowhere. So in the C2C, yeah.
Okay.
In the C2C, we decided that we would be pre-1980, under $3,000 budget. So you had to buy a piece of shit to start off with. Didn't matter what you bought, you could have bought whatever you could have wanted and rebuilt it. Unlimited budget on spending, but you had to be a car guy at that point in time. Yeah. And that's what we sort of did, I ended up sort of advertising it lightly. I sort of asked people, I was like, hey, do you want to do it? And like Eric Probst, who had a van, he was like, yeah, man, I want to do it. I'm like, right, cool, but let's do it. So it was me and Eric that sort of kicked it off, really. And there was just two of us to kick off with,
So now it ended, the last running was 2017, right?
2019, 40th anniversary of the run. We called it quits. We'd done 5 runs. Brock had done 5. I figured that was the time to call it a day.
Okay. And, I got to be honest with people, from what I've seen, the guys that are running for true time, they're not just getting in a fast car and just, starting in New York, just flooring it and going. They're putting so much time into researching the perfect time to leave, having spotters along the way, all kinds of technology as far as, the countermeasures for, radar, laser. I mean, hell, Arnie and Doug and I think Berkeley, they had fucking radar tracking aircraft.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, these guys are hardcore of hardcore, but taking every precaution to not only not get pulled over, but to be as safe as possible. And that's the one thing that's kind of shocking about the whole thing is the safety record of the event.
It's all of us that are serious about it. That's the major thing, right? So we always used to say, like, we used to do the dumpster speech at the start. That was traditional, and we would talk about, the first thing we talk about is the one thing that you've got to uphold is the safety record. Above all else, it's a safety record. Like, ideally, if you do it, we should be able to pass. We took 42 cars from one side of the country to the other at speed without anyone noticing.
That's an incredible feat.
Yeah. So nobody knew, like, we didn't have the FBI on us. People were like, oh, what do you do when the CIA and the FBI come after you? It was like, fuck, if they came after me, man, I'd be like, so we're stopping. That's it. It's over. That's it, the story. They weren't interested in us, you know. Like, we kept it as low key-ish. Like, we didn't really publicize it. If you're a car guy, you could find us. It was kind of like being in the A-team. You know what I mean? Like, if you needed us and if you wanted to get in, it wasn't impossible to get in. You just had to answer 3 questions well. And then you were kind of like, if you passed, you were in, basically. And we had a lot of fairly serious people around that. I mean, Arnie and Doug and Ed and, you know, John Ficarra and like everybody kind of like ran in it. Like a lot of super serious people ran in it, but we just had a lot of fun, you know?
And that, to me, that's the reason to do it. I mean, you know, I can't say there's no way, because there's going to be some idiot at some point that's going to break the standing record, which is what, 25 hours. I have it here because I can't remember numbers.
Yeah.
25, 30. 20, that's 10 hours faster than what Brock Yates ran in was it 71? That's 10 hours. 10 fucking hours. That's crazy. Yeah. You know, and
I mean, you know, the roads have changed. You got to bear in mind the roads have changed. Sometimes they've changed for the better. I mean, your roads are pretty good. Like the highway system, when that was complete, I mean, you were 2-lane roads back in the 70s. 71, it was a very different animal, you know.
Yeah.
But and obviously the cars have changed a lot as well. So that does help. But it is like, to do those kinds of times, when you're down to the 25, 39 mark, it gets exponentially harder every time you go down the speed. So my first run was 39.45, right? And that was in a 73 Cadillac sedan DeVille, all standard. But that was booking it, man. We weren't mucking around at all. That was not sitting about drinking coffees and kind of like wondering what to do. That was foot down. But if you took it slightly easier, because you know you had an easier car, it would be easier. So once you, like, I think in a modern car, you could aim at 35 quite comfortably. You know, like a team of regional drivers in a car, in a modern, like a Camry, like 35 hours, right? But every hour under that, it gets harder.
See, my goal is to at least meet or break that 40-hour, 51-minute mark that they set with the van. That's kind of like, that's kind of where I'd be happy being. I don't want to, I know for me to try and, you know, or any normal, sane, rational person to try and beat that 25-hour mark, it's like, it's not like, it's hard to tell people how insane it is, because people keep telling me, they're like, well, you know, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to beat her, and I've got like a Ford Pinto with a massive gas tank or something. And you're like, you don't realize quite how hard it is. This isn't something, these are pro drivers. That's the other thing you got to remember. These aren't just kind of like Joe Blogs, nobody. They're pros. And it's a really hard, constant slog on yourself to do that. You imagine jumping in a drag, like people who do drag racing, you jump in a car, you do a run, and that run is like, you know, seconds, right? Yeah.
We're going to run 30 hours in a car. Holy shit. My first run in the Caddy, by the time I got to New York, I was exhausted. I mean, I drove like my ass was on fire the entire way. I mean, I didn't realize at the time it was kind of more about consistency than going particularly fast. So I drove out of New York like as fast as I could. And I have to say, it was exhausting. By the time we'd done 250 miles, I was done. Like, I was out. Like that's, and I was a pretty good driver back then. And I was just like, right, I'm exhausted. Time to change, you know?
But, you know, and the other part of that is like, you know, you did it in, you know, what was that, an old Caddy, you said?
Yeah, 73 sedan DeVille. I bought it from Houston for $2,000.
You know, but now you look at the last few that have set records. You know, Mercedes, BMW. I'll go back to Alex Roy and Dave Marr. BMW, Mercedes with Ed Bolian, Arnie and Doug, Mercedes, Captain Chaos, Audi A8, Arnie and Doug again with Donadel Dairouche, Audi S6. So they're using these, you know, high performance, you know, engines that are, you know, computer controlled, and they can, you know, accommodate for the altitude. Those old caddies, once you got up in that thin air, it was a different ballgame.
We had a standard tank in ours and everything. We didn't do anything to it. I mean, it was super amateur like on that part, you know. So it was like 13 fuel stops, right? But it's like, I've been in Arnie and Doug's Angry Ursula. I just come back from the States and I went for a ride with Arnie. And man, that thing is the iron fist in a velvet glove. It's like 750 rear wheel horsepower. It's a massive car. But it's built for comfort and speed, you know.
And if I remember right, they actually detuned that car.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
It was too peaky, and it just they wanted to get some more fuel economy out of it, because that's the game. It's not just like, if you build a race car, you've got people there all the time. You can service it. You can fill it up whenever you want. You've got a crew waiting there to fix it if something happens. You've got multiple attempts to make it go right. But if you've got the Cannonball Run, you're doing it once in a car once. Something goes wrong, that's it. You know.
Yeah.
Now my theory is that if he goes wrong, you just finish.
Or get as far as you can.
Yeah, well, you finish. Like the goal is to finish, you finish, right? Especially with your first ones. I mean, look, if you're really going out for outright time and you're not going to make it, well, fine. But I mean, finishing is the goal. The goal is to finish without hurting anybody. That's it. That's the real goal beyond it, right? You're an idiot to try anything else.
That's the most logical goal. I mean, I've seen even, you know, people saying, "Oh, I could do that. It's easy. It's no big deal." Like, I mean,
I can't do that. I've run 5 runs. I can't do that.
Yeah, hell no. Like I said, my goal time is 40 hours, and that today is not very fast at all.
No, it's sensible, right? It's a sensible thing. People would tell me, "Oh, I'm going to run 30 hours straight off the bat." It's like, well, you better be prepped to do it. I mean, I've seen some serious contenders do that. I mean, I'm friends with lots of people that are really kind of like, you know, really good, talented drivers. I mean, you know, Grady Leno, who did the lower 48, like, he's a serious planner. And he told me, first off, he was going to run like an amazing time, but he didn't quite make it. But it was like, but he put everything into it. He had the right car, he had the right team, he did everything, you know, right. But it's still that's X factor that you can't always get right. Things go wrong. You know, I think there was a video on Ed's channel this week that was saying that they got stuck by like a hostage negotiation, like, you know, on the freeway. Like, what can you do about that? Nothing. It just happens.
Yeah,
it's not a racetrack, you know.
The one word you use that's absolutely key, it seems, is planning. And like I said, you know, when Arnie and Doug set that record, you know, they didn't just jump in a car and say, "Hey, let's drive to California today as fast as we can." It took a long time of prepping the car, prepping the route, you know, getting, like I said, the countermeasures, the technology, the spotters, people to track, people to calculate. There's a lot of math involved. It's not, you know, to make a record run, it's not just get in the car and go.
I remember Tommy Davis and Rob Pickup. They came on the last C2C, and they imported a car from the UK. They imported a Jag, so they actually brought it into the country. It was like a proper international kind of job, right?
Nice.
And they had a book that I've got a copy of that they put all the way through. And it's a book. It's a book sized. And it's got every police car from every state, what time they want to be running, where they would be running, at what time they enter the state, at what point in time they should be out of the state. Kind of like, it's just like a spotter's guide. It was incredible. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen, you know. And it was like, whoa,
that's awesome.
But people put like an undue amount of time into prep into it. Or Doug, when he ran the C2C, he built a car for it. Well, lots of people built cars for it, but Doug really built a car for it. And he went crazy on it. You know?
Which car was that?
Ultra Base, the Monte Carlo. He won it. He won the UFC 2018, I think it was, or 2017, 2018 it must have been. Yeah.
When he put that up for sale, I said to my son, I'm like, "Hey, Raj, you want to try and buy it?" He's like, "You don't have the money, Dad." I'm like, "Shut up, asshole."
It's a fantasy league thing, right? So like our C2C's cars, right? Like, so mine came over here. So I exported mine back to New Zealand. Like, so the caddy lives here now. And the guy that got it loves its C2C history. He just thinks it's fantastic.
You brought it there and sold it?
Yeah, I brought it to New Zealand and sold it. Because, I mean, it was a worthless car in America at the time. It was a sort of fuselage Cadillac, and I wanted it to be saved, you know. Because what happens is at the end of the run, do the cars get saved? Who knows, right? So I wanted to make sure it did. So bringing it here, that's what happened. And my van is here. So from the 2019 C2C, my van is here. In fact, I'm going to take it to used cars full of people on the weekend.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if you were to be able to basically choose any car to make that run, whether you're making it for time, whether you're making it for fun, like, would you go for that newer, modern, computer controlled, or would you go for that old school
It's not me,
period
man. It's
clunker?
not me. It's not me. I wanted to torture everybody, right? I mean, I wanted to drive 70s cars. It wasn't meant to be easy. It was meant to be tough. It was meant to be like a bonded experience between you and everybody, you know? And like, I'm not going to go out for outright speed. What am I going to do? Like, I'm not going to do that. I'll be lucky if I pushed under 30. You know, if I pushed under 30 hours, I'd be flipping amazed. I'm 47 now. My eyesight's going, like, at night. I'm not into that speed thing. I don't want to win, you know? I did win. Actually, that's a lie. I won. I won in the first C2C. I was the winner, and that was it for me. I won the door prize of my own party, and I was like, "Yep, thank you, no more." I mean, there were only three cars.
So if you were going to make the run again, you would go with something older, right? Is that what would you go
59
with?
Cadillac limo.
Well, a limo. All right.
Yeah,
actually,
59 Cadillac 75. That's the car for me.
On your YouTube channel. That hearse.
Oh yeah, cool.
Hearse, oh my god, that thing was awesome.
Yeah, me too. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, it's not for sale, is it?" Because I bought the 51 Chevy from him. I mean, I buy an amazing amount of cars. You might have seen my I bought 2,000 cars video on VidWiki. So I buy cars everywhere, and I bought the 51 Chevy from him for $1. It cost me $1. So I went to pick it up, and when I saw his other cars, I saw the Cadillac. I was like, "Oh, is that for sale?" Oh, but I mean, owning one of those things, it was a 62, I think it was, Cadillac hearse. I mean, it's a mammoth beast of a car, but
I know
it's like a rock opera, isn't it? You know, everywhere you go, it's a spectacle.
And that's the thing. Like you had posted, I think, on Facebook that where it went, where the car went, and that it's going to be treated properly.
Yeah,
was what I think you wrote. Right.
Yeah. That's the main thing, isn't it? I mean, look, I got a car. I think I can walk you around actually, so I'll walk you around the yard. I just finished restoring a car, and there's no good reason I should have restored it. It's just it's been here for 30 years, and it was in a shed, and I thought I should restore it. So
okay,
you see the Rambler?
Oh wow!
So I just went completely to sound on it because I just liked it. I mean, there's a lot of restoration stuff in here.
Okay.
But even things like this, I just bought them because I liked them. You know, it's we did a lot of film cars, and there's tons of things in here. It's a huge yard full of stuff, but it's yeah, I love cars with a bit of something about them. It doesn't matter what they are, as long as there's something about them.
Well, I mean, to me, there's something about every car, and especially the older car. I'm a big fan. We just had this big ass lottery jackpot of $1.9 billion, which I didn't win. By the way,
that would be the end of it for me.
I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, what kind of crazy ass cars would I buy? I'm like, yeah, early '90s Buick Roadmaster estate wagon, just because I love those.
That was the secret C2C grand prize car. That
nobody turned
up in one. Well, yeah, because the Roadmaster wagon was like, they're just an amazing car. They really are. They go like hell, but we couldn't figure out how to we would have just about allowed one in the C2C because we all wanted one. But LT mounted, they're really quick. They've got a hell of a top end. They're super comfortable. You know, they're good
to me, it's a super comfortable because I drive a lot. Just
wait a minute, you've got $1.9 billion, and the first car you run out is a Buick Roadmaster. You're my kind of guy.
I told you I'm fucked up, but that was, like seriously, that was like the first thing I'm looking. I'm like, oh, I would, because I have family up in New York. It's like a 1,200-mile run, and I usually make it one shot. I don't stop for anything but fuel, and I'm like, that would be an awesome car to do it in. It's comfortable. It's like riding a couch.
75 limousine.
That would be, dude. That would be amazing. That would be absolutely insane.
Just repower it so it runs a little bit better, fit it all with all the mod cons, and just go in that. And everywhere you turn up, you're like a god. You're like a rock god.
And that was like that was the thought, was like, get a car like that, or even something, something older, do like kind of a resto mod job on it, where you update motor, transmission, so it's reliable, but still looking like that honey on the outside.
Yeah, that's totally the way to go. I love that kind of stuff too. Like, I'm a
And,
big fan of the '69 Dodge Charger, to be honest.
ooh, that's like,
68, 69.
that's holy grail type stuff.
Yeah, and they were cheap not so long ago. A friend of mine bought one. We went out and bought it in Detroit, which is a great place to buy cars anyway. Like, it's complete.
Well,
They're all rusted to shit, but it's
I was
kind
just
of like,
that's probably like one of the only good things to do there, unless you're into buying drugs, then go for it.
dude, I love Detroit. See, this is a good thing. People always go, "Oh man, what did you do in Detroit? It's shit city, right?" Detroit's amazing, man. It's huge. It's the city of the motor gods. Why wouldn't you want to go there? You know.
Well, I mean, because it's kind of a shithole these days.
Have you been? When's the last time you've been in downtown Detroit?
Very, very long time ago.
Yeah, so I was down there a couple of months ago, right? And it's
Okay.
it's a major American city. It's nice. Like, we were outside, like, kind of like, I ate at Eminem's restaurant, you know, the mum spaghetti thing. So we ate there. It was fairly cheap. We walked outside. I saw Bigfoot. Bigfoot was in downtown Detroit. So we, like, the original 1978 Bigfoot. And it was awesome. People are out eating ice cream, sitting on the front. It's like, it isn't kind of like Beverly Hills Cop, you know?
Okay. What's funny, my wife was there 2 weeks ago. She didn't really have much to say about it because they flew into Detroit and then drove to Toledo, Ohio. The
Holy shit.
amazing.
It's a good drive, yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
that was the closest airport.
every city in America has its good and bad spots. I mean, I like Detroit. I'm always going to like it. It's the motor city, right? It's like, why wouldn't I like it? I mean, I went down there. I was right next to the Fillmore, you know, so it was like,
Okay,
it's just an amazing thing to see. And yeah, it's got something going for it. I like a lot of American places. I mean, I stay in the back roads mostly, but every time I go to cities, I was in Chicago the other day. And it's amazing. I was amazed how nice it was. Went to Wrigley Field, you know, I was kind of like walked around. It was like super cool. It was like pretty chilled out. I was like, yeah, man. And everybody's like, fuck Chicago. You don't want to go there. You need to carry a gun. Have you got a gun? I was like, no. Like, do you want one? Do you want to take a couple of guns with me? I'm like, nah, man, I don't need a gun. I'm okay. I got a mouth. It's just as good.
I'm one of those guys that carries most of the time, but then again, I go intentionally into some really shitty places, like bad. We're not going to talk about that.
I mean, I bought cars from drug dealers. Like,
yeah,
like,
you know what?
I've never had a bad time.
But that's the thing, though. If you're in there doing, conducting business, buying a car, whatever. I mean, unless they're going to try and rob you, but for the most part,
do it. But like, yeah, I mean, I used to drink with a car dealer in South Central LA back in the 90s. And everybody was like, whoa, you're going there to South Central LA? Fuck, you're going to die. No, it was okay. As long as you kept it fairly kind of like, fairly low key, you were okay. It was like, nobody really cares if you're down there with somebody, and it was all right.
I mean, that was the thing back in the day. I mean, my experience was I did high risk security in some very austere neighborhoods, and tell a drug dealer, hey, you're going to do your thing, but you're going to do your thing over there, because if you do it here, I have to deal with it, and I don't want to deal with it. So do your shit over there and come here and hang out. And they were cool as shit with that.
Yeah, I mean, I generally go pretty much anywhere. I mean, anything can go wrong, right? I'm not telling you that anywhere is like it's the safest place in the world, but anywhere can go wrong. So I just I just go there, and generally I'm pretty excited to be there, and I'm kind of like, oh, hey, like, what's going on over here? And people are like, fuck, I was going to shoot this guy, but I think maybe I'll show him around.
Well, I think the accent helps you out a little bit. They're like, all right, he's from somewhere else.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. The accent definitely helps out. The accent is like, it really is the key to the city on that one. Because people will go out their way to help you.
But the other side is, you have a great personality as far as that goes. You're not a dick. You're in there. You're friendly. You're gregarious. You're out there just to have a good time.
I haven't met.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what?
So when
we need
everybody
more
else is
of that.
out, I'm like, hi, how's it going? I'm from New Zealand, and they're like, oh, where's New Zealand? And that's the end of it. That's kind of like, they personalized you. They were just going to shoot you, but now they personalized you. Like, fuck, I'm not going to shoot this guy. I know his name now.
Now they're not only are they not going to shoot you, but they learned where New Zealand is.
Yeah, I went down to a car show years ago with some lowriders friends in LA. And everybody was like, whoa, are you really going to go with these guys downtown in LA? I'm like, yeah, sure, man. It's going to be fun. And they're like, I don't think it's going to be fun. But everybody just wanted to sell cars.
And that's the thing, though. Car people, I mean, there are a lot of gatekeepers everywhere. There's a lot of gatekeepers with everything. But, at the core, car guys are car guys, whether you're into the low riders. I'm a Jeep guy. So, we have the Jeep community, which are really, really tight. But once you
Yeah.
start talking cars to a car person, it doesn't matter if you're from the lowrider community, I'm from the Jeep community. We're going to talk cars because that's our bond. That's our common thread.
Yeah. That's our campfire, right? That's where we build our stories around.
And
then everybody goes home and they go, "Fuck me, man! You wouldn't believe who I was hanging around with. Some guy from New Zealand came down there, you know."
But that's cool though.
Yeah, and it's really nice. You get to see a lot of things you wouldn't generally normally see. But that's, like I said, it's the chaos generator, right? And it's good to get out there and do stuff because, man, realistically, these days people just want you to really sit in your house and consume shit and never leave. Like watch TV, watch the internet, just never get out. You need to get out there and do stuff. Like the world's a place to explore, you know?
That's the thing. I was driving today. Usually I listen to, I'll throw on my Spotify, one of my playlists, but I was listening to the regular radio. And there was a commercial for, I forget what exactly it was, but it was like, the best place to watch a concert in the metaverse is this thing on this game Roblox. Like, I'm not going to sit and watch a concert through a video game. That's insane. If I want to go to a concert,
don't fucking record it. Don't turn up at a concert, wave your phone around like this in front of me.
Don't
fucking do it. Fuck off.
Well,
You're never going to watch it again. Nobody cares.
It's not just concerts. It's like everything. Like I live not too far from Disney World. My kids are getting older now, but when they were younger, we went to Disney a lot. And, people experiencing stuff, I'm trying to enjoy the show and what's going on. And every asshole's got, earlier it was iPads holding them up, trying to record everything. How about put that fucking thing down, enjoy the moment, enjoy the experience that you're in, and not have a screen shining in the faces of the people behind you like an asshole.
Oh man, I've got a YouTube channel. Everybody tells me to record everything. I'm like, nah, I just like to do a bit. So me and my friends, we have a bit of I'm saying, hey, here's a bit where we're going to do it. So we do a bit where we do our little YouTubey thing, and then we stop recording it. And then we go and have the rest of our night out.
That's it. I mean, there are some people out there that record like when I do a cooking video, all right, I have a cooking channel. You and I discussed that before we went live. My cooking channel, by the way, Sugar, Salt, Fat, and Booze. Check that out. But when I do a cooking video, it's, it's planning out, researching the recipe. Sometimes if it's something new, something I've never done before, I'll do a test run, then recording it, and then editing. It's a process. Like these people that record their whole lives, like I'm just thinking of the amount of time they spend editing. Like, holy shit.
They don't edit it. It doesn't happen. It never happens. You record 3,000 hours or something. Fuck it. You never record. You're never going to go through that. Can't edit it. It's not possible. I used to work in movies, so I used to do movie cars and stuff for a living. So I know exactly how it works. Like majorly, you record a little bit and then you move on. But because if you record too much of it, you'll be in editing hell forever. You'll never fucking do it. It's not possible unless you're like Stanley Kubrick or something like that.
No, I mean that's a completely different level of commitment.
You lock yourself in an editing suite for 3 months and then you edit through it. But fuck that, I can't do that. It's like when we went to, what we were saying about the car jump in Canada. When we went to do that, like it's like record everything, take photos. I'm like, I've kind of like got 35 minutes worth of video, and everybody's like, fuck, you should have had heaps. I'm like, we kind of had a camera with us anyway, and that was kind of his job. That's what he did. So we didn't do the rest of it, like I just recorded like a little bit of a vlog thing, which is like 20 or 30 minutes a day, and that's it. Fuck that. Like you don't record your entire life. You'll miss everything.
That's exactly it. Now talking
when
about
you're dead,
that,
you'll have a big pile of recordings that everybody else can watch and remember you when you're doing stupid shit things, and like there'll be 3,000 hours that nobody will want to bother going through, or you can have like a perfect 50 minutes.
No, what's going to happen is you're going to have 3,000 hours on a little hard drive that somebody's going to pick up, be like, what's this? And they just throw it out and never even look at it.
That's right. It's like old photos, man. Unless you're in them, nobody looks at them, right? So
exactly.
It's like, and life's much more than that. I mean, you should be out there experiencing stuff. When we went up to the Alcan Highway, the Alcan Highway is one of the most amazing things I've ever done. I mean, honestly, I've done some shit in my life, and that was really like, you go around a corner and it would just blow your mind. It's just so big. It's like gigantic. And we were following the Union Jack painted Jag. So it was even better. It was like being in part of a movie all the time. I had to pinch myself to believe I was there. And like all of us when we hang out, it really is like hanging out with your mates. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not forced. It's not a joke. Like all of us in the car community, all of us in the C2C and stuff like that. What I didn't realize as a start is I thought it was all about racing across the country. What it was really about was hanging out with your mates with a rather inconveniently long drive in between.
All right. That's a good way to look at it. I like it.
We talk about geeky shit. You can turn your geek level right up to 12. You know, you can talk about cars and movies. You can talk about stupid engines. You can be like, oh, didn't somebody make a Pontiac Tempest with 8-leg wheels and a 6-cylinder overhead cam in the 6? And you're like, fuck yes. And like, what film did he use that in? Oh, Busted Knuckles, 1972. And like, oh, I've seen that. Like, it's like, that's exactly the way it goes. You know, we're
awesome.
stupid geeky idiots. Like car geeks are just book geeks, but with a slightly cooler hobby, in theory. You know, we're like the geeky kids from school used to hang around in chess and math club, except we were in the car park doing donuts in our Dodge Chargers.
You know what? You had more fun than the nerds in there with the books. I mean, I'd rather do donuts. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Calculus wasn't me though. I wasn't that guy. You know, it just wasn't. I was a mix between the two. I like chess, but I also like Dodge Chargers.
There you go. So you had mentioned the 4th of July. What is the event actually called? Like, I can't even. My mind's fried. So
I don't think it like has really a name. It's just a thing, which is even better. It's just like the Glacier View car jump. It doesn't like all the best things. They can't be asked to name it. They're too busy having fun. They're like, yeah, we're throwing some cars off a cliff. Everybody want to join us? Yeah, fuck yeah, let's all go.
So for anybody who doesn't know what the hell we're talking about, every July 4th it's Glacier View, right?
Glacier View, Alaska. So it's just south of Anchorage.
Okay, so in Alaska, in Glacier View, Alaska, right south of Anchorage, they celebrate America's independence by launching cars off of a cliff, which is probably one of the most American things I could think of. Is just breaking shit.
Yes. Until you've seen a V8 go off a cliff and the full steam its own power and explode out of the bodywork, still running, you haven't lived.
That was the video you guys put together with that was absolutely fantastic. We were
so excited. We were so excited. We were all at the top waiting for our car to come off, and we were like, we've just done 7,000 miles in this thing.
That's crazy in itself.
Patching this piece of shit $1,000 truck back together every fucking day, right? And the Jag was worse. The Jag was like a torture chamber. Like, it was beautiful.
But they made it.
Yeah, they all made it because we wanted to make it, and we were determined to make it, and we would have pushed them there if we had to. Do you know what happened? Well, like, do you know about the bridge getting washed out?
I remember seeing that. I meant to watch the video earlier, but I got screwed up with my day job shit.
So here we go, right? So you can't possibly ever script anything. Like us, nothing is scripted. You watch my channel, fuck it, it's not scripted. We just do it, that's it, right? Because you couldn't script half this stuff to happen. We end up in a parade, right? So we end up in a parade in Fort Nelson, and everybody was like, oh, we haven't got time. We've been broken down for days. Everything's gone wrong. Everybody's exhausted. Like, we've just been eating bread in the cars. Like, it's a biblically hard trip already. And we're like 2 days away from the end. We're like, yeah, wicked. 2 days away from the end. We're there. It's cool. We're done. And then we woke up in the morning. We finally go back on track. It's the first day we've had like a night's sleep. I walk inside and there's what do they call it? Like a native, like Canadian dude, you know, like a Native Indian? What do they call them? I don't know.
It would be, I think they call them, I don't want to fuck it up. Do they call a native, you know,
Canadian
native
dude,
Canadian.
You know? Yeah, like, you know, and yeah, and the First Peoples or whatever they call them. Anyway, awesome dude, right? Comes outside, he goes, hey, you guys in the parade? We're like, parade? It's like, yeah, there's a big parade in town. Like, I thought with all the painted up cars and stuff and the Evel Knievel truck that we had, that you'd be in the parade. And we're like, fuck, do you think we can be in the parade? He's like, yeah, of course you can be in the parade. Let's go and be in the parade. I'm like, okay, great. And John was like, man, this is the first time we've caught up. We've got to do we know we're not that far away. We've still got a whole hell of a day's drive. I'm like, fuck, John, it's a parade. It's a parade. John, it's a parade. Parade. Let's get in the parade. And he's like, oh, really? I'm like, listen to me. Are we going to be the fuckers that are in the parade, or are we going to be people that weren't in the parade? I said, well, when the same put it that way, we're all in the parade. So we went in the parade. There were loads of people in town. Like, we're all like, and we're in the most American cars ever, right? We're in a British Jag, right? Which John's like with the Union Jack on the front. We got Captain Chaos and Evel Knievel, right? We've got Evel Knievel track and a B4T Justice Charger driven by Dave Lockhart, you know, Dave Lockhart 66, the famous kind of rally guy. And we kind of like, that's what we cruised in. We cruised through a Canada Day parade in 4th of July decorated car, and everybody was like, "Evil Knievel, yeah!" Like, like Captain Chaos. Like, we had a great night. Like,
but that's what you said about
day.
Finding chaos wherever, the fun chaos. That's
literally
awesome.
We were following Captain Chaos, so I took that to the letter, right?
Absolutely. Dun, dun, dun. That guy's crazy.
Yeah.
I love him.
And he's walking around doing that. Matt Davis is like the nicest man ever. He's just an awesome dude, right? And Grady Leno's portrayal of Knievel went down to him carrying whiskey in the flask, like in his cane. So we're drinking out of his cane the whole time. Anyway, so we get to the it's a place called Coal River. We pull in, we get a bison burger to eat. We're maybe 3 hours away from where we're going to stop for the night. We've got a hotel booked. Everything's great. We're like, fantastic. Hey, everybody, this is all going to be great. Cool. I have the burger in my mouth, just let him go in my mouth, and this guy goes, "Hey, you guys heard about the bridge washing out, right?" I'm like, what? He saw the bridge is washed out just up ahead, like 3 miles up the road. I'm like, okay, that's bad, right? How bad is it? He's like, oh, the bridge is gone.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, oh. So where have we got to backtrack to? 2,000 kilometers south before you can start to go north again.
Holy shit.
We got 3 days to be there, right? And I'm like, you kidding me, right? He's like, no, it's serious. I was like, fuck, what can we do? Can we jump across the bridge? No, it's 110 meters of concrete bridge gone, right? I'm like, no way, man. This is a joke. Were you serious? I'm like, everybody, the bridge is out. I'm like, no, the bridge is fucking out. So we run across, and there's Chris Michaels is with us. He runs across. There's a helicopter in the paddock. And we run across, and we're like, hey, man, can you helicopter the cars across the bridge? And he's like, no, it's not that type of helicopter. It's like, fuck, if we strip them apart, like even if we pull the engines out and stuff, can you get them across the bridge as frames, and then we'll reassemble them on the other end? No. Is there a track that could drive through the river? Is there like something? How can we get across? There is no way. Is there a fire trail? Is it nothing? There is nothing.
Damn.
And you're not going to believe this because I didn't believe it. A beaver dam had gone, and it wiped out the 136 meters of concrete bridge.
A beaver
like
dam.
A beaver dam. Beaver dam. And I was like, what, small rodent, right? Yeah, I was like, how big is it? How big is this? What? Like, how is this possible? Yeah, they build massive dams, and when they go, they wipe out everything downriver.
Yeah.
And there's no other way. There's no other way north. That was it. That was the main highway gone. So all of the traffic had to turn around and go south, and then go north. So I walked back and I said to Grady, I went, Grady, you're the chief planner. Is this possible? And he goes, give me a minute. Comes back and says, look, if we drive non-stop now, and I mean non-stop, we can make it. But
the key is non-stop.
The gas stations close at 8 o'clock at night, at the latest on the other side. Wow. None of us have got driving lights. We've got these shit cars with shit yellowed headlights, or the Jag, which used to do a combination light, which is like the 2 lights on one side, 2 lights on the other side, 1 light on one side, 1 light on the other, but never 4 lights across the front, and never 2 lights on the same side. So it's like right. So I go right. And I basically did a full-on, we'll meet them on the beaches, we'll fight them in the seas kind of speech. I walked up and said, right, boys. And I can only remember the start of it as all good speeches. I was like, you call yourself Cannonballers? Now's the time you're going to find out. And I laid it out that this is what we got to do. And I just literally picked up my burger, walked outside, sat on the bonnet of the F-150 and thought either everybody's going to come outside now, or they're all just going to stay inside and say we can't do it. And everybody walks inside, and they started emptying the cars into the track and clearing the back seats so you had somewhere to sleep. And then we just did it. And we drove non-stop the whole way there. Non-stop. We were turned up in towns. There was no gas station open. And they were like, what are you guys trying to do? Like, we got to throw these cars off a cliff tomorrow. We got to throw them off a cliff. We've got to go. We can't stop. We got to keep going. We got to go. And they're draining out their 4x4s and their quad bikes, bringing us gas cans just to make it.
That's crazy.
It was the craziest trip I've ever had my whole life. Like, we drove until we were exhausted. We had, there were 6, 7, there were 8 of us. So 8 of us in 3 cars. And we just rotated through the cars. Like, Dave's Charger was the most comfortable, and that was the one which there was the quickest and the fastest with the best headlights, so he went in front. And we were literally overtaking trucks with we just drove 80 miles an hour. We were overtaking everything. Fuck the speed limit. Like there's no cops up there anyway. And we just we're like, cars behind us, go, overtake now, overtake. There's nothing coming. We're like overtaking on bends and stuff because we were the lead car. And we're on the CB telling everybody to keep going, you know?
Wow. So now you said that's the craziest drive.
To kick out the windows and go.
Holy shit. Now, you said that was the craziest drive. Now, but on the scale of fun, where does that rank on the fun scale?
Oh, it was like the greatest thing ever. You were there with your mates, like all of you, like in dire situations. Like it's like, it's like, I don't know if you've ever seen Ice Cold and Alex, but it's like all together against the desert. It's like they're all of us against the clock. We've got to make it. We have to make it. We've got to be there. There's a documentary coming out sometime later this probably next year now, and like John Ficarra, because we filmed the whole thing. We actually had a cameraman with us, and the cameraman was like, congratulations, you are now a cannonballer. Right now you're driving too. You're going to break your bones on this trip. You're in. We haven't got anybody spare. You got to go. Super, super cool dude, man. Like one of the nicest people I've met, and just an awesome driver. And he did his bit, drove all through the night and everything. Like he really did. Like but everybody played their part, and it was an amazing trip. And we still broke
Teamwork
down.
Makes the dream work.
Yeah, we're all fixing the cars together and doing everything, and it was really it's hard. Like we'll probably do it again the next 4th of July. But it was it's difficult. Like the cars are just pieces of shit. I mean, the F-150 was running on 7 cylinders, and
so now,
completely fucked.
If you do it next year, are you going to do it the same way by driving them all the way up there, or are you going to be smart?
No, we're just going to fly in and check it off the end. Where's the fun in that? No, we're going to drive them the whole way. It's like why wouldn't you do that? I mean, you got to if that's the adventure. But the thing is, we sort of pitched it as doing a driving adventure with us, but if you want to do it, it's like you really got to know your shit. You have to be part of a team, and you have to make that work. You have to be ready at the last second to take your socks off and kind of use it to fix parts of the car. It's that kind of thing. It's a real challenge. I mean, it was the biggest challenge I've ever done. I mean, because we were broken down in actually Alliance, Nebraska. Alliance Automotive saved our asses. We broke down in Alliance, Nebraska on a Friday morning, actually. The truck through, they popped F-150s. They got a Triton engine. They blow spark plugs out. So I blew the spark plug out, and it was running on 5 cylinders. So we're stuck in Alliance. I ring everybody around, and they're like, "No, we're weeks out. People are all off. It's because it's still post-COVID. Everybody's saying, no, like half our staff are off with COVID." So we turn up at Alliance Automotive Alliance Towing, right? And we say, "Hey guys, we got a problem. The cars," they say, "Oh, we're really busy. We don't know if we can fix it. It's like a small town on a sort of Saturday afternoon." Alliance, Nebraska has car henge, by the way, which is one of the greatest things in America.
Right, yep.
You have to see it, right? So we went there, and they go, "Well, okay, what are you doing?" And I said, "Look, we're taking this to Reno, and then we're all going to be out with 3 teams, and we're going to drive this thing to Alaska and jump it off a cliff." And they went, "You're going to what?" So we're going to jump it off a cliff. That's our whole big thing. This is why he's dressed as Captain Chaos. And, and the guy goes, "Put down your tools, boys. Get out the back. Start stripping that F-150 out the back. Start putting the parts on this thing. Let's make this fucking thing go."
All right.
And the whole garage gets together, and they put the car together, and we have photos with the kids and stuff, and we have a great time. And then kind of by the afternoon, we're off and going again. And I made it all the way there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the whole trip's about that, That's the way it is. We broke down outside the missile silo in the Minuteman missile silo, just inside a wall. As well. That was another one. The starter motor quit on us. So we one of the wires just fell off. So literally I had to hold it onto the starter motor. The place is closing. You've got to be out of here. What are you doing? But it doesn't run. We're in the middle of nowhere. It's God damn, what are we going to do? Is it Wall, South Dakota? I think it's the middle of nowhere. It's the Badlands.
I think so.
So we're up there, and we had to sort of clamp it on tight enough with a pair of pliers. I had to hold the pliers to hold it onto the starter motor enough to get it to start. And then we drove into a little there's a little garage in Wall. I think it was Badlands Automotive. And the guy's like, "What are you guys doing?" He's like, "I haven't got time to do this. Just you have to wait." And I'm like, "Look, we're gonna jump off a cliff." And he's like, "Oh, okay." Dropped his tools,
Since you put it that way.
Yeah, since you put it that way, he was a guy doing drag racing. He had a Cobra Jet Mustang called Lawman. It was really cool. But like everywhere we went, we just met lovely people to help us on our way. And that's kind of what happens. We turn up in piece of shit cars, break down in little towns in the middle of everywhere, and people just get together and help us.
But all you have to say is, we're going to jump this thing off a cliff, and they're like, I want in.
Yeah, or like when the Cadillac used to break down, because it broke down all the way across America. Like fucking hell, I got to see every roadside attraction in the whole of America. That piece of shit. And like when I got to the end, it wouldn't even start in the morning to get out of the garage in New York, and they were pissed about that. They were like, "You can't work on a car. What are you doing working on a car here?" I'm like, "Fuck, it's a 2-ton Cadillac. What do you want us to do?" They're like, "Well, you can't work on it here." I'm like, "Well, you can't tow it out here, and none of you fuckers are gonna push it out here. So guess what? We're working on it here. So you'll just fuck off and leave us alone to fix it." And they're like, "Oh, okay, cool. Just get it going." Because it was like such a flagrant break of the rules. There's nothing we can do about it. It's like, okay, fine, just fix it. And then it ran nonstop across the country. But everywhere we stopped, people would drop their tools and help us out. And that's the one good thing about America. People are lovely out there.
Yeah, it's interesting how Americans get such a reputation for being not friendly, not helpful, and it's crazy, because I've experienced the how helpful and kind people can actually be and actually are here, and we just have a shitty reputation. The fat thing, us all being fat, I'll take that one.
Well, actually, you're actually a lot less fat than you were before. I don't know what's happened, but since COVID, it's definitely people have lost weight. It's a big thing.
Well, to me, like when COVID happened and everybody was like, stay home. I'm like, I'm cool with this. Like, I don't like people. I'm good with staying home and being a hermit. Hermits have no peer pressure. I'm good.
Fuck, I'm an extrovert. Imagine what it was like for me. I'm bouncing off the walls, man. I'm trapped in the country. I couldn't even leave my house. It was a terrible.
I'm an introverted extrovert, so I have this as my outlet, and I talk nonstop. But for the most part, I don't like going out. I mean, I will, and when I'm out, I have a good time. Same way, very friendly, gregarious. But for the most part, I'm a hermit, man.
Dude, I shaved my head, and my missus came down. She was like, "It's some Britney Spears cry for help thing. What's going on?" I can't see anybody. I can't go anywhere. Fucking, I was want to see what I look like with a bald head. I basically look like Grossberger from Stir Crazy.
I've met Britney Spears. She's a sweetheart.
Is she?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolute sweetheart. Dad's an asshole.
Well, that I can believe. But I mean, the thing is, celebrities are bound to have mental health issues, right? It's just a thing. You put yourself out in front of crowds, people are cruel. Fuck, the internet has made people twice as bad. You wouldn't say half that shit to people's faces. Like back in my day, you'd never say the stuff that people say on the internet to people's faces.
People that talk shit on the internet have never been punched in the face. I mean.
No, but they also, if you do the same to them, they fall apart instantaneously.
Oh, yeah.
It's just and people forget that. So when I said, when I was in the movie stuff, there were celebrities, you'd hang around with them a bit and stuff, and people are just assholes to them 24/7. They're just like, you imagine being anyone. You imagine being like anybody famous, and then all day long, day in, day out, you get the same quote at you all of the time from people who just won't leave you alone, and then wonder why you're angry about shit.
What's interesting, I've had the good fortune of meeting tons of celebrities, athletes, actors, singers, famous people of all walks. But the one thing, and I kind of got this from my father, is you don't treat them like treat them like a person, talk to them like a person, be friendly, be polite, be professional. And, by not going up and quoting movie lines to somebody, or just, hey, how are you? I'm Roger. Nice to meet you. You can have a conversation and they're friendly.
Oh, it's fuck, amazing. I quote movie lines and stuff. But the last time I met somebody was like, wow, you had ages to talk. What did you talk about? I was like, oh, we were talking about Dirty Harry. And they were like, well, why weren't you talking about the movie that we're all watching that they directed? I'm like, because we'd all just watched Magnum Force the other day. We were saying how badly framed it was. And I thought, fuck. I didn't even talk to him about the movie that we're watching, for fuck's sake. Shit. God damn it. But the thing is, if you just got to remember to be genuine. They're fucking people, I mean, they just don't need that kind of shit. They just don't, you don't need that, you just don't need it. I just seen it around people and it's like, oh man, I can imagine what it'd be like to one of those poor bastards, Like if you were Sylvester Stallone and people come up to you 500 times a day, go, Adrian.
Yeah.
You're like, oh fuck, you know.
But I don't really, I've met so many, and a lot of times when I've met them, it was I was working. It was a professional capacity, so going up and quoting movie lines was not appropriate at that moment. But I think probably one of the ones I truly like got nervous about meeting, and it was Joan Jett from Joan Jett and the Blackhearts.
Fuck yeah, I've been nervous about meeting Joan Jett. Yeah.
Now, what's funny is I had gone to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show on Broadway or off Broadway, and she was in it. And she sat on my lap and sang a song, and Dick Cavett called me an asshole, which is part of the show. It's all right. But a few months later, I end up working a security detail for her. And, they bring her in the room. I introduced myself to her, and she kept looking at me. She's like, "Why do I recognize you?" And I'm like, "I saw you in the Rocky Horror Picture Show a few months ago. You sat on my lap and sang." She's like, "Oh," "No, that's not it." She's like, "But did you enjoy it?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I did." And then I'm standing next to her, and she's a tiny little thing. I'm 6'4". I'm like a big mountain of a dude. She's like almost like right up her face. Like she got right up almost belly to belly with me, with like tits to belly. And she's like, "Don't eat me." And I you got to ask nice for that was my response. And we laughed. But she like I got nervous meeting her the first, like not at the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That was, part of the show. Everybody's having, but like meeting her was like more impressive than meeting Britney Spears, which is weird, probably because I'm more into Jones music.
Well, that's the same thing, isn't it? It's the same for me. Well, I met Zoe Bell, the stunt woman. She was, we did a thing over years together, and she did, so we were doing a distracted driving ad. So I supplied because I used to be a car wrangler, so I supplied the car for it.
Okay.
And, I was pretty nervous about that because it was like I knew a lot about Zoe Bell. She's a stunt driver, right? And then I kind of I want to talk cars, right? I want to talk cars. I want to talk cars bad, like real bad, more than anything, And so I'm trying my hardest, kind of not go over and be because my job is not to be if you work on cast, your job is not to be obtrusive. Your job is to be there to do your fucking job and then get out there. If you're a massive movie fan or a big star kind of dude, it's not for you. Your job is to be there and just do your job, and don't hassle people, especially actors, because they get a real tough time. People go look at these people doing nothing and earning millions, but it's hard, man. If you could do it, anybody would do it, right? You can't.
My stepdaughter,
it freaks me out.
My stepdaughter and her husband both work in the film industry up in New York, so I know exactly what you're talking about by going in, shutting the fuck up, and doing your job. Yeah,
that's it. You're not meant to kind of be really super nosy and but I am, right? And I'm talking to him, and I am. It's just who I am. I can't help myself. It's just fuck. It's you can't just change who you are, right? So lots of times people say, "Oh, I never talked to those guys. I've never met them before." It's "Oh, that Welsh guy. Oh, I know him." Because I'm blah 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 blah. So that's kind of who I am, right? But I was pretty nervous when I met her. So we didn't really talk for long, but it was it's who you respect for different reasons, right? Obviously stunt women and people like that, and stunt men, that I'm really kind of I appreciate what they do a lot more than some of the actors, because I don't know a lot of the actors and I don't know anybody modern. If Burt Reynolds comes on, I'm going to fucking die, right? But everybody else is I don't know who you are. Oh, do you know who
if Burt Reynolds goes up, then we're all fucked because he's been gone for a little bit now. So if he shows up, we got bigger problems.
If it was not Burt Reynolds, man, I'd be okay. I'd be all right with that. I wouldn't be running, I can tell you. But it's I had a friend who used to work for MTV, and she worked there for years. She just didn't know anybody. And she told me one day, she said, "I met this guy today, a really nice guy. I don't know if you know who he is, David Bowie." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, fuck, I know who David Bowie is." She's like, "Oh, is he famous?" I was like, "Kind of famous." She said, "He was a really nice man. I wished him all the best and hope he was successful."
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty successful. He really is. He genuinely is. So kind of
I think he's going to do good.
Yeah, I think he's going to do pretty good. I'm like, whoa, David Bowie. Even I would have gone, I suppose I can have an autograph, can I? Or something I would have tried, but that's the thing. I don't think you get too far if you kind of the film industry is an interesting enough business. It's high pressure. It's I just kind of got out of it a bit because it's too much. And since COVID, I lost half my staff. So it was just, screw it,
Yeah. So going back, we didn't finish about the Alaska launching cars thing. So
Sorry, we're off the path here.
dude,
Like generally, it's like
that's the
stick
theme
to
of the
path
show,
and
man.
beware of the full moon. We're in the middle of the sort of thing. Yeah.
We start talking about something, we go off on a wild ass tangent, and then have to like pull it back. That's what we do, and we're good with that. But
American Werewolf in London, right? When you kind of like they say, keep to the path and beware of the full moon, and all of a sudden we find ourselves way, way off the path in the middle of nowhere with something howling in the background.
that is where we are right now. So,
right.
So to celebrate 4th of July up in Alaska, they launched cars off. Now you had mentioned, before the show we were chatting a little bit. And you said people were on you about the environmental impact of this. And that's something that I thought about as I was watching the video is, I mean, you got a car launching off, it hits the ground, the engine comes out of it, still running,
Fuck yes.
I mean, shit. Yeah. That's like America. Fuck you.
God damn it. Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that in person, but
you watch a Chevy V8 fly through the air, running out of a car. It's an amazing there's something primal about it.
I'm going to have to get my ass up there one of these days. So
yeah.
You had said that you guys clean that up, everybody cleans it up and there's like no trace that it actually happened.
You'd have thought I was going around clubbing baby seals live on TV for doing that, right? For going up there and jumping cars off a cliff. And it's a negative impact. It's negative. Like, I'm a hippie, right? I'm like a lefty hippie, theoretically. But everybody's like, you like Trump-tard kind of like, and I'm like everybody's like screaming about shit. I'm like, what the fuck are you people talking about? It's like, we cleaned it all up. And it's like, this is the choice, right? It's rural Alaska. It's the middle of nowhere. And it's like, the only way you're going to get a car out of there to junk it properly is for us to pay for it to be taken away from there and junked. So nobody fucking does that. They just sit in the field until they rot to pieces and all the fluids just drop out into the floor. And then eventually you run over it with a bulldozer until it's flat and try and push it into a part of the farm that you don't know about, or you stick it in a hole. That's what fucking happens, right? So what we do is we drain them of fluids. So they get drained of, like, we put water in the rads. We kind of drain most of the fluid out of the tank, just enough to keep it in a run. And then we just fucking send it. Right? That's pretty much the way it goes. And then when it hits the bottom and it explodifies, we then pick it all up the same day, and then it gets trucked out to Anchorage and recycled. So it's a negative event. It's negative environmental impact. I mean, some of the stuff will spill out, but otherwise all of it is going to spill out, right? So we clean up as best as we can. We don't leave anything there. There's no like major oil spills. Some are pretty tough. They don't kind of just smash apart and then all of the oil explodes out of it. They just don't.
Wait, so it's not like in the movies where when a car goes over a cliff, it didn't even hit the ground yet and it's already exploded into a giant fireball. It's not how it happens.
No, they don't even catch fire, sadly. Like, I mean, if we could blow it up, go over the cliff, I would definitely blow it up, go over the cliff, because that's what we've done that in movies. But you know what we do in the movie? We strip all of the foam out of the seats and then we put the covers back on them.
Okay.
To glue all the glass together. I had to get I threw a car off a cliff and blew it up in a film, and I had to get certified to be able to clean it up by the council. So when it was cleaned up, it was like totally immaculate, right? So I steam cleaned the car, we took everything out of it, we did a job. But junk cars are junk cars, they go everywhere. You go to the shops, you leave an environmental impact. You jump on a plane, you get on a fucking train, you get whatever you're going to do, you walk down the shop. If you ride to the shop on a pig and sheep, it's still going to have an environmental impact somewhere down the line. What we actually do in Alaska, it all gets cleaned up and it gets recycled, which is already a bonus. So it's just kind of harmless fun. There's 7,000 people there that then go without power for a night because they turn up and they camp out on the hills around and they have a fire and they kind of so at the end of the day, it's environmentally we're super friendly. We're like fucking Greenpeace. You should be kissing my ass and be like, you're amazing people. You're throwing these V8 cars off a cliff, these gas guzzlers, and you're fucking you're making people live outside back in the pioneer days of you're cutting emissions everywhere. Fuck me. I'm like the Pope of environmental kind of issues at this point in time, But the way I go on, I think I'm the Saddam Hussein of political parties. It's crazy.
But that's the thing. People are fucking crazy. I mean,
people are fucking crazy, and they can't digest that as information. And then when I had to go at people online, because I'm useless as a YouTuber, you're meant to kind of do this whole thing where you don't engage people and you don't you just stick it on there and you go, there we go. Fuck you guys. That's it. But that's not me, right? I'm from a small town. I used to say hello to everybody. The first time I went to fucking New York, I'm saying hello to everybody down the street and everybody thinks I'm a mental case. Do you know what I mean? You live in a small town, you say hello to everybody because you know them or you're going to meet them again shortly. So that's unfortunately the way I'm taken to the world. So I walked down the road like, hello, 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 hi there. You know, I feel like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what's going on? But that's kind of, so when people attacked on YouTube and were like, you environmental bastards, like, you know, that was a great running car. It was immaculate. We threw it off a cliff. It was like, you know, you bastards. There were single mums that could have used that to go to the shops. It's like, fuck no, unless they had big leg muscles, they'd be pushing that motherfucker there, don't they? Do you know what I mean? Like, when you're really going to dump a car that does 5 miles to the gallon and has got 7 cylinders, like, work sporadically on a single mum? It's like pick her groceries up, which is me doing more pushing than walking. Fuck no, you're not going to do that. It's a piece of shit. There's no frame in it, you know?
Well, that's when you tell them that you took that horrible gas guzzling, carbon dioxide spewing monstrosity off the road, and it will never harm the ozone layer again.
Imagine how much of my audience I would lose if I do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I'm somewhere in the middle of it, right? Like, I don't like, look. So this is the real truth, right? Or prepare yourself, hold yourself tight. It's fucking conspiracy theory. It's not conspiracy theory at all. This is the truth. Do you know the reason they never do any studies about old cars versus new cars? Like the environmental impacts? Because driving an older car is like 1,000 times better than buying a new one. So repair, recycle, reuse, that's it. That's what you're meant to do, right? You're meant to, like if you got a car that's 20 years old, or 10 years old, because 10 years old is the projected lifestyle of a car, you've already taken out all of its environmental impacts, like from it being built. And if you buy a new one, you have to put all that back in before you start trading off. So if you drive the old car and keep that old car going, it doesn't matter if it's worse on gas, doesn't matter if it's a little bit worse on emissions. Because basically, you were taking something that should already be landfill and you're continuing to make it work. So that is already like 28,000 barrels of oil ahead of the game. It's not being shipped from China, or it's not being moved from all over the world. It's already there in your backyard and you're repairing it. So it's but they never do that study. They never do that study. And the reason they don't do that study is because there's no money in it.
Yep. Well, same reason why there's no car tomorrow. That's why there's no cure for cancer. That's why there's no cure for cancer. It's more you make more money by treating it than curing it.
If they could cure it, it would be $10 million. So they would cure it and you would be cured of it. Oh. But the thing is, I
was going to say, once they cure it, you're not going to get it again. So they can't make any money off you. That's
they just offer it to billionaires. But the problem is with the car thing is that you need to repair, recycle, and reuse everything. Your fucking toaster, your car, your phone, all of that shit. Don't like people like go criticizing how like bad the environment things are when they use a phone. I mean, the phone is like, it's the thing that you throw in the trash. It, like everything you put in it goes straight into the ground. And then they're going to have a go at everything else. I mean, it's like electric cars. Everybody's like, hey, you got to drive electric cars. The reason you should drive an electric car is because it's better than a normal car. And if it isn't better than a normal car, you shouldn't be forced to drive the fucking thing.
Bingo.
Now, if you give that a period of time, right, then they will be better than normal cars. They will. They'll have bigger, longer ranges. They'll be easier to charge. They'll have lighter, more compact, better batteries. And that's how it'll work. Like you drive a Tesla. A Tesla's like a premium brand car. And people buy them because they're good. They don't buy them because they're shit. They buy them because they're good. Like the Prius. Remember the Toyota Prius? Everyone hated them. Oh, yeah. Everyone hated them. I hated them. I own one. I use it to get me around town. Like it's not a bad car. It's 22 years old, right? So I only bought it because it was $1,000 car and I needed kind of a cheap banger to run around me around. And I figured I just wanted to test one out and see what it was like. And if you live in a town and that's where you drive around in, they're good. They're really good because the electric bit does the electric bit and the kind of like the power bit, it's reliable. Nothing's gone wrong with it. It's 20-odd-year-old. It's done 200,000 kilometers. It's a piece of shit, you know? And it's been generally a good car. I get it. It's good on gas. It's handy. The reason that people bought Priuses is because they were good cars. And if you want a car that's a washing machine, because that's what it is, right? It's just white goods. Then it's perfectly fine. I mean, it doesn't blow my socks off. It's no 390 GT Mustang. It's just kind of like, it's a car. It's a thing. It gets me to the shops. It'll get you around, and that's what it does. And I got it because in case they bring ultra low emission zones in, I've got one that'll do it. And it's still an old piece of shit, so I can afford it.
There you go. But that's the thing is, you talk about the studies. Everybody thought, oh, you got to get an electric car because it's better for the environment. Not really.
Not at all.
The batteries are toxic waste, not recyclable. The cars are made out of plastic.
Yeah, but you can't grumble about the cars. Like, you can't grumble about electronic batteries at all if you use power tools, if you use a phone, if you use a laptop, because they're the same fucking batteries and they're 100% throwable. Now, the batteries in electric cars are modular, so you can take out bits of them and put new bits in. So in theory, you can repair and replace them, right? So it doesn't make any... The environmental impact is probably about the same. People say, no, it's not. It's like, it's way better. It isn't. It's probably similar to a normal gasoline-powered car. There wouldn't be much difference in it, depending how long the batteries last, and depending how repairable those cars are. Because if they're not repairable and we're throwing them in the trash after 10 years, then the environmental impact on an electric car will be massive. It'll be huge. You know?
Yeah. My thing with electric cars, and this kind of annoyed the shit out of me when I saw Dodge came out with their electric version of the I think that it was the Challenger that I saw, where it had speakers that played engine sounds. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's not my bag.
No, not at all.
It's not my. But I'm old. I mean, we've got to admit we're fossils, right? Compared to everybody else. Like, kids now if you tell kids now, if you say, "What do you want more, a phone or a car?" They'll tell you a phone.
Yeah, I mean, my son's 17 years old. Here in the state of Florida, you can get your permit, your drive, your learner's permit, your driving permit at 15. 17, he still has no interest in getting. Like, when I turned 16, I made my father take the day off of work to go take me to get my learner's permit because I wanted my license that bad. Like, he just got no urge. He got all kinds of video games and shit.
I watched Cold War Motors the other day, and Cold War Motors is a really good internet YouTube channel. It's really interesting. It's all about old cars. The guy restores them, and he was restoring a Model T, and he said the Model T was the most important car ever because it gave you the powers of a god. Because before, you lived in a town where you had to walk places, you had to go over it. The Model T changed life as we know it. You could marry someone from a different town. You could court somebody from a different town. Because instead of it being like a day's walk, it was a 3 or 4 hour journey.
Yeah.
You know, it gave you the power of it. I mean, that was the same with us as we were growing up. I mean, to own a car gave you the powers of God, because it was like you could go places you'd never seen before. You could drive all around the country. For me, I could drive all around America. You know, I got to see everything I want to do, but that was what I wanted to do. But now kids they're connected through their phones and they don't go anywhere. They don't have that. They don't have that like personal experience of like a real grabbing it, touching it feeling. They'll watch a video about someone and they think they've got it, but it's not. It's a real, how can you put it? You need to be there.
When I was driving across Texas, like I said, I mean, I haven't explored the country I live in, even close to the amount you have. But driving across Texas, I've seen pictures of what it looked like. I've seen videos of what it looked like. Those pictures, those videos did absolute nothing compared to driving through southern New Mexico at sunset and watching the shadow of the sun on the mountains go down. And, things you don't see, or actually the shadow coming up at sunset, but, seeing that the color and the smell in the air, you can't get that from a video. You can't get that from a picture. You can't get that from the internet. You need to immerse yourself in it.
You've got to experience it. Yeah, it's a fully immersive experience being somewhere, but people don't do that anymore. Like when I was saying, like, actually, I meant to say when I was going up through the Alcan Highway, like it was a mind-blowing experience, and there were loads of places that were closing down, hotels and campsites and motels and restaurants, and it's because people aren't doing road trips anymore. Like that's the thing. Like everybody's too rushed. Like even gas stations in America, like they're all gas station cut down because what happens is you drive a car from the 70s. This is something I can tell you all about. You drive cars from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You only had a limited distance you could go before you had a gas up, right? Yeah. Like the steam trains. In the old days, the steam trains used to go to towns, and towns would spring up because they had to put water in the trains. And that's why when they went diesel, then a lot of those towns disappeared. And the same things happened with gas in cars, because all of a sudden your Camry will do 450 miles a tank, whereas your old sort of Torino would be lucky to push 200, 250, and 250 you'll be freaking out because you got to get to the next gas station, right?
Yeah.
And then people would stop more often. They would stop on the road. They would spend overnight, but now they don't. They push on. People drive longer and harder, and they have less vacation time, and they work harder, and they just don't do things together. They don't take their kids on vacation. They fly them somewhere else. They'll sit in a hotel. They do shit. They may as well stay at home. It's the same deal.
I don't fly my family anywhere for two reasons. One, I hate flying, and B, I'm cheap as fuck, and it's cheaper to drive to where we're going.
You should hate flying anyway. Well, it's definitely cheaper to drive now. What didn't used to be cheaper as to fly. I mean, you could jump in a flight and be $80 anywhere. Now it's like it's expensive. I flew from LA to Atlanta. I think it was $500. It's the first time I've ever got anywhere near that for a price.
I mean, to drive from here to New York, where I go most of the time, like I said, to visit family between Tampa and New York, it's about 1,200 miles. Costs me, I want to say, like in total, maybe $600 in gas. To fly the family, it'd be, like 1,200 to fly the family.
Yeah, because there's quite a few of you, and it's nice to take the time out to do that. But the thing is, people don't want to spend that time together anymore. People are very insular now, and phones have done it. Like the last few years, phones have really made people insular. In the old days, like me, I'm talkative, right? Like you put me anywhere, I'm super talk. I'll talk to anybody. In France, it was like you'll talk to a dog with a hat, right? It means that anything that's around me that's likely to get talked to is getting talked to. And if you sit down in a bus station or a train station or an airport or something, usually I end up talking to people and making a friend. It's the way I go. It's what happens. It's why I end up in adventures. I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, I'll go there. Well, let's go here. But the problem is, like, people don't do that anymore. They just sit down and they just stare at their phone. That's what they do. That's their whole thing. They don't want to interact, and they don't get anything out of it. And without personal interaction, what the hell?
They only want to interact on the internet, where they can be the biggest, baddest thing. And, I think, that whole experience, not just talk, because I don't like talking to people. I'm a fucking weirdo, but just being on the road, stopping off at, even taking back roads. There's a route, it's kind of going out of the way, but it's scenic, going up the very far East Coast of Virginia, North Carolina, Virginia, Route 13, going to the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. I don't know if you ever went that way. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And, I want to make sure, and I yell at my kids to put your damn phones down while we're driving. Look out the window, see what's there to be seen. Yeah.
America's beautiful. It's a fantastic place to visit. Please, America, stop turning places into fucking Disney World too. Like, go to a place, enjoy it, like it for what it is, and stop making it this big corporate pile of bullshit that everybody hates.
That's true. I remember, I'm old enough to remember when Times Square used to be nothing but hookers, pimps, and porn shops, and 25-cent peep shows, and not the Lion King.
Well, yeah, it's Well, the thing is now, it's you go to Memphis, and you'll go and see where Elvis was, and the rest of the area around it is terrible. And then it's so people go there, they go see Elvis's place, and then they just take off. They don't even go to anywhere else in Memphis, like the Stax Museum or anywhere like that, or the Civil Rights Museum's there, which is really cool, by the Lorraine Motel. It's a real Beale Street. Beale Street is this tourist spot, and then the rest of it isn't. You know what I mean? That doesn't seem to path around to the neighborhood around it or something. And it's so you don't visit anywhere real. You don't see anything real. It's like Disneyfication, I call it.
No,
you turn up Calico Ghost Town.
That's a spot on description.
Yeah, you go there and it's it's a ghost town that's like a Disney town, right? I think it's Calico. It's the one just outside of LA. And then there's another one which is Bodie. Now, Bodie Ghost Town is a fucking ghost town. It's in the middle of nowhere. You go there and it's genuinely creepy and weird. And there's there's a few people that live there, but I went there in the snow and they closed the gates. I had to walk to it, but it's an amazing thing. It was whoa, fucking hell, check this out. It's like a real town,
But that was something that we had mentioned before we went live about, when I travel, I like to stop at, I'm a big food guy. I like to stop at mom and pop, hole in the wall, dude in his front lawn with a trailer smoking meat. I like to stop at places like that as opposed to the typical chain places, because you get that experience. You get to meet the people, talk to the people, learn something about the area, and possibly have some barbecue that's not going to fucking kill you. That's always the trick. That's
Now, I'm going to tell you this now, right? And this is going to sound like a strong point of view. It's your fucking duty to do that. It's your fucking duty to stop off at mom and pop places. Because you know what? If you stop off at Walmart, they suck all the money out of the community. They don't fucking sponsor anything. They don't look after anything. They don't do anything. They're not part of the community. They might employ a couple of people that live there. They don't pay any fucking tax. They have these huge places in the middle of nowhere. McDonald's, mate. Some of the McDonald's restaurant feel like a mom and pop shop. What do they do for the community? Nothing. They stick a set of golden arches up there and they just constantly suck money out of it.
I'm a disappointment.
Like, wait, if you're a local restaurateur that owns a McDonald's or something, you don't do that, good on you, because you shouldn't do that. I tell you, a notable exception is Spam. Austin, Minnesota. Been there, the Spam Museum?
I have not been to the Spam Museum. I've actually only eaten Spam a few times in my life.
Man, the Spam Museum is a total treat. It is like something that you can't, like, we went there randomly, didn't know anything about it. I drove along. I'm a Monty Python fan, obviously, right? So I'm driving down the road, and me and Captain Chaos are on a road trip together in that piece of shit F-150. And we're cruising around, and I'm like, let's stop off at everything. So we got to do some miles today. I'm like, fuck no, let's stop off. I want to see this. And he's like, he wants to see that. And I'm like, oh, let's stop off at the Minuteman Museum. Let's go and stop off at there's a place that there's rockets. We need to go there. Anyway, we do all this shit. We go and drive and see the Golden Spike where they lay the railroads. It's amazing stuff to do. Anyway, Spam Museum. We're driving along and it's like the Spam Museum. It's free. I'm like, fuck, you got me. You got me at free anyway, and Spam, right? And I think, what's the chance? It's just going to be a little poxy little museum. There'll be nothing there. There'll be a couple of cans of Spam. Somebody will say, hey, do you want to buy some Spam and a Spam t-shirt? That's it, right? Wrong. Like the longest wrong that I've ever been to in my entire life. Like, so the Hormel Corporation, which employs half the town and looks after the town in a spectacular way, it's like Bedford Falls from It's a Wonderful Life, right? You turn up there, it's like all meant, the streets are beautiful. It's a really lovely place to go. The corporation seems to like employ and look after loads of people. In the middle of town, they got this museum, right? And it's big. And in it, they've got everything you could possibly have. There's floating cans of Spam in the ceiling. There is like a Spam-powered motorbike. There is like the Spam Cafe from Monty fucking Python, completely rebuilt there in the museum, completely. And not only that, so I walk in there, and it's Minnesota. I mean, Midwesterns, I love you. I love you, America. Thank you. You Midwesterners, you make my life complete, right? They turn up and they go, hi, where are you from? I'm like, oh, New Zealand. They're like, would you like us to cook you some Spam? And you can sit in the Spam Cafe from Monty Python while we feed you Spam from around the world.
That is crazy. I have to go now.
I would like to do that, right? So I go there. And he says, what are you doing? We're like, well, I'm going to jump this truck off a cliff outside. He's like, do you want Spam to sponsor you? I'm like, yes, that would be amazing. So he's like, he got us T-shirts, he got us a bag, he got Spam, like little kind of like little cards with stickers for the trucks and all the cars, like T-shirts, everything for free.
That's awesome.
Like, and then he's like, I've got some Spam for you to try. It's called Pinoy Spam. It's only served in Malaya. They're the only people that have it. It's the only place in the world they serve it. And here, I left with a completely, totally different view of Spam, which I thought was English, which I was completely wrong. It's built in Austin, Minnesota, and they still make it in Austin, Minnesota. Thank you. Awesome. Go USA #1.
That is awesome.
But that's my one corporate kind of like, holy shit, man. They really pushed the boat out there. Like, everybody should visit Spam Museum once. It's free, and it's amazing. You'll love it.
I'm going to have to now, because that just sounds so fucking crazy that I just have to go.
It's like a really pretty little Midwestern town. It's like spectacular. Austin, Minnesota. Can't recommend it enough. See, there we go. Randomness. Just get off the main track. Go do some weird shit. It's cool.
That's probably the most singing endorsement for anywhere in Minnesota that I've ever heard of.
You wait till we start talking about Mudo, South Dakota, which is on the trip from there as well. Mudo, South Dakota. Middle of nowhere, nothing interesting. Guy called Dave Geisler has a museum there called Mudo Auto Rodeo, I think it was. It's like that's what it used to be called anyway. And it is one of the best car museums I have ever been to anywhere in the world, bar none.
Really?
Yes. Bar none. I turned up there thinking it was going to be interesting. This was a few years ago when Dave was there, right? And Dave was an older gentleman. They used to meet and greet everybody at the door. right? So and he would meet you, and I was like, hi. And he's like, hi, where have you come from? I'm like, oh, I'll come here to have a look around. And he's like, why have you come here? So they took the wall drug technique and Burma Shave. Remember Burma Shave that put the ads out? So
Yeah.
wall drug used to do the same thing. It was like, come and get a free glass of cold water at wall drug. And they would post that up for 250 miles. And by the time you got there, I said, fuck, I'm going to have that free glass of water if it's the last thing I ever do, right?
Yep.
So Dave, as you're driving along, he had a fire truck parked at all the way down the route on the way. I can't remember the name of the road, but as you go down the route, this fire truck parked on the side. It was like, come visit the Auto Rodeo Museum. I'm like, okay. We're driving along, and it's like, come visit the Auto Rodeo Museum that has the General Lee there. I'm like, oh, what? You mean the Dukes of Hazzard General Lee? Yeah. I was like, come, look at the General Lee, the original General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard Series 1. By the time I got there, I was busted, man. Honestly, I don't know. I was like, it was high noon in my brain. I literally, I'm like driving like 130 miles an hour down the rest of the route to get there before we closed. And I turned up, and Dave's like, oh, yeah, sure. He said, coming in. And they walked me through, and he goes in. And the first car there is the General Lee, right? Dukes of Hazzard General Lee. First car. First series,
Nice.
built by the original builders, the only one in the world, built by Warner Brothers, the only thing to survive the first series, apart from the one that Travis Bell rebuilt later. I walk in, and he goes, do you want to sit in it? I'm like, fuck me dead. Do I want to sit in the General Lee?
In the General, not just a replica, like the fucking real deal General Lee.
The real deal. Built by Warner Brothers, owned by Warner Brothers, still owned by that, left at Dave's Museum, in the middle of nowhere in this little town. I'm like, yes, please, that would be amazing. And it was amazing. It was a transitional moment of my life. It was like, I didn't think this was going to happen. I didn't see this coming off in this little museum. And I'm like, holy shit. Holy shit. So I sat there, and I had like a bit of a moment. Might have had a slight sob, you know, a little cry to myself. Like, you know, just
Okay, it was a happy cry.
I never realized I was going to be here. Right. And then we walk around the rest of the museum, and he's got his old man and Dave were just serious collectors. So they would buy anything that took their fancy, and they would stick it in the museum. So there's like, not jukeboxes, what do they call them? Musical boxes, like the ones that play from the pianolas. Right?
Okay.
So there's Elvis's motorbike used to be there. There's like, and when they were car dealers, anything that was interesting, they just kept. So they just kept it, and they parked it there, which is pretty interesting. The first ever camper van that went around the world, motorized camper, that's there. Nothing's in mint condition. When I opened the doors, it was like opening a barn find. Like, it's just barn find. Like, and it's just like, and it was like, oh my God, muscle cars and like everything. You know, and they just kept the cars they liked in this small town. And not only did they keep the cars, they kept the whole original fucking tank.
Really?
So when they were going to pull down the original tank, right, which is like the railroad tank, they bought and kept the whole town, and then just stuck it up inside with all of the things in it, like the apothecary and like the railroad carts and the schoolhouse and the church, everything.
Wow.
So if you want to walk in there and see what it was really like in the Wild West, they have it there. And then
That's
you can just walk
awesome.
around it and be amazed. And it's not like, it's not in mint, nothing's in mint condition really, but it's just, like, we got another singing endorsement for a tiny little kind of like nowhere out of the way place that makes you feel like home.
I'm taking notes for a road trip, just so you know.
No, we've took with the, like, I've threatened to do like a big Ben Charlie Safari Wilson road trip for years, and everybody's like, I'm in. I want to go to these weird little places you stop at.
I'm in.
Yeah, it's great, and it's wonderful. Carhenge as well. Like, Carhenge is a wonderful place. Cadillac Ranch is shit. Sorry, people. I loved Cadillac Ranch, but like, people, if you can't be bothered to pick up your spray cans, I've lost all respect for you. Especially when there's a bin by the gate.
Yeah, that's kind of dicky.
Yeah, you know, it's like, just trash the whole field, dump everything around there, don't care. It's just like, it's bored people spraying stuff on them. I mean, come on, get with it, you know? Do some artwork, be interested about it, stop off and see it, but don't like cut pieces of it with an axe, and don't kind of like take your litter with you. I mean, it's not hard to do that, you know?
It's not hard not to be an asshole.
No, but Carhenge is all of Cadillac Ranch without all the trashed cars. And it's in a lovely little town. Everybody's lovely. Like, everyone's lovely. Wherever you stop in Alliance, everyone is super lovely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's put this trip together, man. Let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's go. I'll be there now. I think I've still got my old 2018 LTD, like the C2C cab, like the crazy taxi. There's a piece of shit 80s LTD. Like we did up like a taxi last minute.
I've seen the pictures, man. The thing is, though, those any of those Panther platform cars, I love those cars. Love them.
It is hurt bad. That car is hurt bad. That car's been hurt badly for years and years and years, and still doesn't miss a beat. And the number plate on it is fresh. Really, it's fresh, Montana. That is the real plate.
Really, that's awesome.
So when I drove through Philadelphia, and people leaning on the side of the go, "Yo, fucking, it's a Fresh Prince."
That's fucking great.
Yeah, it's like the most fun I've ever had. Me and Christopher Michaels drove into that. We had a ball. And then we turned up, it was me, Christopher Michaels, and Chris Clemens, right? We turned up at hotels and people were like, "Are you all the guys from VinWiki?" Like with like the monkeys, like we just travel together all the time. Live in the same house. We're like,
yeah, but still getting recognized like that is pretty awesome.
Oh, it's weird, man. It's like a weird thing. It's just such a weird, like when I came through the airport the last time, the guy's like, "Oh, I know you." I'm like, "Oh, fuck. I'm wearing my Cannonball jacket." He's like, "Are you here for a Cannonball run?" I'm like, "No." No, we don't do that anymore. Like, he's like, "Oh, I watch you on VinWiki and stuff." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "I've seen your mini video." I'm like, "Oh my God." Like the airport guy here is like a fan. It's like I was like, "Oh, wicked." He's like, "Oh, well, have a nice time, enjoy the reunion and stuff." I'm like, "Great. Okay."
Well, it's funny when I was it wasn't too long ago. I was driving around. I live in Tampa, Florida, so I was over on the St. Petersburg side and driving down. I drove past. I don't know who has it, but the that Porsche that they off-roaded on the Car Trek series.
Oh, that's Dave Lockhart, the orange and white one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know who had
it. Dave Lockhart 66 on Instagram. He's like literally internet famous.
Is he a Florida guy?
Yeah, he lives in Florida. He's a super nice guy. He's like one of the nicest people I've ever met. Like he drove he had the Charger we took up to Canada, Alaska.
Okay.
Jumped off a cliff.
I
he's
drove
like the nicest dude ever. Him and his missus are lovely.
I drove past. I saw him. He was stopped at a light as I was going through, and the guy I was working with, like, he had no idea what the hell I was talking about. Like going nuts. I'm like, that was a Porsche from VinWiki. Like, holy shit, that thing's. He's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, and I pull up the video. I'm like, "Just shut the fuck up and watch this."
We're like a small select group of car guys. So it's like famous amongst car guys only, right? Like we drive around that LTD and people like beeping the horn and like waving, like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, I'd pull over and people are like, "Oh man, I saw you run this thing in the 2018 C2C." And I'm like, "How did you see that? How did you where did you even find it?" It was like, "Oh, there was a feature in like a magazine or something." I'm like, "Fuck." Like what's some dark corner of the internet where it turned up, But yeah, it's quite funny, really. But of course, I've only started doing VinWiki stuff recently because I was in lockdown the whole time the VinWiki started.
Now, what's really frigging crazy is I've heard your name. I can't remember where I've heard your name, like before VinWiki was a thing. I probably read your name in a magazine somewhere. And then it just, once I saw you popping up on the scene with Edge Channel and with all that stuff, it's like, I know who that guy is.
Yeah, I was kind of everywhere in a small way. And I deliberately kept out of the limelight as much as possible because I was the organizer of the C2C, it fell on me and sort of my head, really. Eric did a lot of the sort of the groundwork on it, Eric Probst. And then I was the face of it. And the face of it was basically, if things went really wrong, then it was all on me. And that was a kind of tough thing to have. So I didn't want to be super famous anyway. And I always felt that it's sort of really weird. We've got a weird direction. Here we go. I always felt like I'd become like a car pariah immediately. Like if something went wrong on the C2C, it would make me a complete pariah. But I wouldn't be able to go anywhere again because I would be the asshole that kind of caused the Cannonball Run's name to fall into disrepute. So I didn't do anything to do with it. I didn't do the reunion. I wouldn't do anything until we finished it, till we basically said, well, I'm retired. And then after I retired, then I sort of came a bit more onto the scene and sort of started saying, well, hello, here I am, because only people for years, people were like, dude, you were like the weirdestly famous person I've ever met. So I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, well, I turned up and I was at the musket ball and people were carrying around this fucking photo of you. And you were like, because they wanted you to be part of it, even though you were stuck in New Zealand. And it was like, oh yeah, I guess so. Like, because I was just like the mascot that nobody ever saw. And it's only now that I've sort of come out and started talking about it. But yeah, I'm just famous amongst a very small select bunch of car guys. And it really freaks everybody out when I turn up and people go, oh my God, it's you. And I'm like, oh, no, it's just like, hi, it's just me.
As my son describes me, I am an ultra niche internet micro celebrity, is what my son calls me.
That's the same as me. Yeah, that's exactly the same as I am. So it's kind of like it, but it's really weird because somebody will turn up and they're like, no, I don't know anything about cars at all. Where have I seen you before? Like, I don't know. What else have I done? Like, my whole life is cars. Like, oh no, I saw you in a film set. Ah, okay. I used to do that too.
So now I got to ask you. I tried to get up there. I wanted to get up there for the thing up in New York last month because I grew up right in that area. As a matter of fact, I think I recommended to you a deli out on Long Island. Did you take my advice? Did you take my advice?
No, I ended up going with everybody to wherever we went. What was the name of the cafe? God damn it, I can't remember. It was a fabulous cafe too. It was like this,
like all American.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like absolutely New York speciality, 50 pages long menu. And they served me cocktails at like, I think it was like 11 o'clock in the day. It was like, are you really drinking cocktails? I'm like, yeah, why not?
Why not?
Like,
why not?
Yeah, why not? Like, it's like, I was sitting there and they were like, I looked at they had a cocktail menu. I'm like, should I have a cocktail with breakfast? Is that out of hand? Like, I think I was the only one drinking, but.
That's a typical New York. That's a typical New York diner. A 50-page menu with everything you could possibly think of. It
was great too. It was really great. We went there a couple of times. It was like they were surprised. We're like, table for 20, please. Like it was me and Ed and Arnie and Doug and kind of Chris Michaels and everybody. It was just like it was an awesome place.
That's awesome. See, those are the kind of restaurants I miss. We don't have places like that here in Florida. We got some good food here, but like that New York diner, I miss that.
Well, you'd have gumbo and stuff. I mean, I went to Katz's Deli, I think, and that was an amazing thing in New York. That was
yeah.
Thing,
yeah.
But I mean, I love. So don't get me wrong when I'm going to say this. So we're about to discuss this bit where we talked about a little bit before. So American food is a cross between either complete shit or genius. Depends which way you go and depends what you're in. Some places like these mom and pop places, I've had some amazing stuff. Like I've turned up and I'm a big fried chicken guy, right? So people turn up and they go, best fried chicken in the state or the country or wherever. And I'm like, well, I'm having that. But it better be good. Yeah. I expect it to be good. And I've got to be honest, because I'm like quite enthusiastic about it. And I'm like, well, I've had some pretty good fried chicken. I find that the chefs generally try and knock it out of the park even further.
Man, I got to say, like, here in America, we got, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Popeyes, the chain joints. You know where I get the best fried chicken from here? My supermarket.
Really? Yeah, well, I can believe that. Like the best fried chicken is never a chain. It's always something else. Apart from Colonel Sanders, of course, which he's got an amazing story. And his original restaurant, Our Lady of Charlotte, I think it is. I think that still serves Kentucky Fried Chicken by the original recipe, which would be pretty good. It's on my bucket list. No kidding.
Let's put it on the road trip, man. But the supermarkets down here, it's a supermarket, a chain of supermarkets called Publix. Their fried chicken is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
Oh, I'm totally in for that. That's it, like 100%.
Next time you're in Florida, next time you're in the States, and if you go by Ed's, I think they got Publix supermarkets up by Ed.
Have they really? I don't know. Ed lives in quite a nice area. I don't know if they have supermarkets.
Publix are nice supermarkets. They're clean, friendly. Oh yeah. That's not an endorsement. They're not paying me to say that, but I do love their sandwiches. So if you're watching Publix, start making egg sandwiches on the weekends.
Spam, feel free to keep sponsoring me. I'm down with that. I'm all about that. But what's funny, honestly, I'd love to. I'll take any fried chicken recipe, like recommendation I can find. That's always a good thing.
All right. Go on a tour of fried chicken in the South. There you go.
Man, I tell you, honestly, there's such great places you go to that cook stuff. I mean, I went to a bar in New Orleans. I got a love-hate relationship with New Orleans, right? New Orleans is kind of like awesome and also not awesome in equal measure. Like, it's too fucking touristy. Walking around with those big, stupid drinks does not make you cool. Fuck you, America. Stop doing those big, stupid drinks everywhere. It's ruining everything in the world. Like, you're in Vegas, you got somebody with like a 6-foot-long drink in their hands. Just fuck off. Stop doing that. Like, carry like a small, reasonable-sized drink and have lots of them if that's the way you want to go. But carrying around a 35-foot thing shaped like a big bong is not like kind of the way to go.
See, but the problem is people keep buying them, so they keep selling them. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, but there's lots of things that people buy that they just really isn't that great, right? I mean, that isn't, it's like, if you want to drink, generally you want it to taste good and look good and kind of like feel fairly good. And it should be like all of the senses. Food shouldn't, like, if you have something that looks like dog shit, it's probably not going to taste that great. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I find the same thing with drinks and stuff. You're going to like make 3 liters of it in like a huge, weird plastic glass you're going to carry around with you. It's probably not going to be that great, and it's going to be full of sugar, like to the top with sugar. You know, and you're going to slip into a diabetic coma after the 3rd one.
Yep.
And it just ruined it. Like, you know, you go to New Orleans and you want to go to a jazz bar or like a soul bar or kind of something. Like, I don't need it to be fancily dressed. You know, I just want it to be kind of like authentic-ish. And the place I ended up in New Orleans, the guy was cooking in the alley next door to it. Like, they're cooking food legitimately in the alley. Like, I was like, what's going on here? I'm like, I'm game. I'll try that. It was amazing. Like, I had a gumbo and like a drink that tasted, I've got to be honest, like petrol. And I couldn't stop them from serving this to me. And then I can't really remember most of the rest of the night, apart from you're like the white James Brown part of the night.
Hey, did you end up in jail or the hospital?
No, I ended up in a rather nice hotel called the Richelieu, actually, but I've virtually no memory of the night before, apart from some photos and seeing one of the greatest soul bands I've ever seen in my entire life. You know, nobody was dancing. I remember hitting absinthe bars and stuff, and I was very drunk. And then I kind of like, I broke my shoes, like, you know, like I really danced. I remember getting up and thinking, hey, I think I'm going to go and have a bit of a dance. And then, all hell broke loose. And I'm like doing the splits on the dance floor. Couldn't walk the next day. All my legs were aching. Like, you know, I had an absolute ball. Like, it's the white James Brown. I was like, I had the best night ever. But I can't remember probably 95% of it.
Hey, but like I said, you didn't end up in jail. You didn't end up in the hospital. That was a successful evening.
Well, generally, that's the general gist of it. If you're not in jail or hospital, you're doing good, right? And that was it. Bingo. Wake up in your hotel room and you're pretty good. But yeah, it was I had a 3-day hangover from there.
Yeah, but it's worth it, right?
Yeah, totally. And it was just a great place. Like, I really enjoyed it. But like, if you don't Disneyfy it too much, it's pretty cool, you know? Like, I like the things that are fairly. I think people went to New Orleans and they went, "Wow, this place is amazing." And then they just Disneyfied it. You know, Vegas was amazing. I always like Vegas. Because it's kind of Vegas, right?
Yeah, but like in Vegas, you expect that. You expect that gaudy, touristy, over the top. But that's what that city's known for. If I go to New Orleans, I don't want to go to Vegas. I want to go. Whenever I go to, you know, anytime somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to go to New York City," what should I do? I said, "Stay the fuck out of Manhattan. Go to Brooklyn. Go to Queens. Go to the Bronx. Don't go to Staten Island either, because fuck Staten Island." But
really, you know, what's the problem with Staten Island, man? I've never been there.
Tell me what's good about Staten Island.
I've never seen the Statue of Liberty. One of the things I really wanted to do.
Staten Island's not Liberty. Staten Island, it's an island, but there's nothing. It's just a suburban. There's nothing there. It's not like
Brooklyn. I thought you just take the Staten Island ferry, don't you, or something?
What's that?
I thought you just take the Staten Island ferry to see like the Statue of Liberty.
Well,
is that right?
You can see the Staten Island ferry goes past the Statue of Liberty. You can get a beautiful view, but it doesn't go to the Statue of Liberty. That's on its own island. But Staten Island,
I just want to do that.
All right, then you'll be perfect. But there's nothing on Staten Island that's really remarkable. Like in Brooklyn, you got the old neighborhoods. You know, you got the movie studios. In the Bronx, you have you have the ethnic neighborhoods in the Bronx. Same thing with Queens. But Staten Island's like, the only thing really on Staten Island to see is the house where they filmed The Godfather. That's on Staten.
Yeah, nah. I wanted to go to Harlem. Everybody was like, no, like, I don't know if we should go. I was like, we should go to Harlem. It'll be cool.
But actually, you can go. I mean, but Harlem even now, like 125th Street is now touristy.
Yeah, across 110th Street, Bobby Womack, man. That's where I need to be going.
Yeah, but go off the. I'll tell people, go to neighborhoods, walk around the city. Don't stay on the main, the tourist areas, because you're not really going to get a feel for the city. You're going to get a feel for what the city is on TV and in movies. You're not going to really feel the city. So that's my advice.
I think driving a Cadillac through there at 85 miles an hour definitely can be a feel for the city that most people don't get.
Well, that's true. Well, but then again, when you think about it, if anybody who's ever ridden in a cab in New York City, that's really not that impressive.
No, that's totally what they do in reverse, I think. Like, I could never live in New York. I've got no idea how people live in New York. I just don't know. But I mean, I honestly, I have a good time every time I'm there. Like, I
Yeah.
really do. Like, it's
It's a good
like
time.
Long
If
Island
you're
is-
there, if you're there
Yeah.
with the right people and you go to the right places, you will have an absolute blast in New York City. It's an absolutely great town.
I think that's true of everywhere. You know, if you go to the right people with the right people in the right places, it's going to be great anyway. But if you're with the right people, you're already on a good start. Like,
That is true.
when I went every time I've been to Long Island, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
I really
I grew up
enjoyed
on
it.
Long Island.
The
Oh, God.
old Westbury Gardens, man, where they did the reunion. That's a fantastic place. Like,
Oh, it's
that's
a beautiful
really,
area.
wow. It's like really stepping back in time. It was built for like the fiance of a steel magnate, and you can't see anything like that anymore. It's just a huge, beautiful garden country estate in New York. Like, what the hell? Like, I didn't even know those places existed.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
You know, there are tons of towns like that everywhere on the island that, you know, are old, historic, you know, beautiful. You know, I grew up a little further out east from Westbury Gardens. I grew up in middle of Suffolk County, and you know, still to this day, the North Shore is absolutely beautiful. Now it's just too congested, taxes are too high, and it fucking snows there. That's why I moved to Florida, because I hate the snow.
Dude, I can see exactly why people would do that. And if I lived in New York, I would have left a long time ago too. But it's still a great. Like, I understand why people like it as well. Like I'm like a country dude, right? I always thought I was kind of cosmopolitan after I left my little coal town. But like, truthfully, I'm like, you know, I'm a country guy. I'm like a country bumpkin, right? So New York City and stuff just like, whoa, just freaks me out. It's amazing, though. You know.
Well, New York's kind of unique because people don't realize, like, the oldest working cattle ranch in the United States is in New York. It's on Long Island out in Montauk. The oldest paved NASCAR track in the country is in New York. It's Riverhead Raceway. I used to work there years ago. You know, people don't realize how much history is there.
Well, the East Coast was the first settled bit, but I don't spend much time over the East Coast just because I know a couple of people out there, which are, like, I stayed with Grady Leno in Philadelphia, and I really liked Philly as well. I thought Philly was really cool. Thought it was a really cool city to check out. But like, normally
it's a weird city.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was all right, you know, kind of like it was nice where we went. It was lovely. You know, I don't know the area, but it was really cool. And me in big cities, I don't understand how that many people can live together. I like to chill out and sit down on a piece of grass and kind of like, you know, it's just, I like to visit, but I don't like to drive around them. So I don't spend much time in them. You know, I spend a lot more time out in the country, like in Barstow and places like that. Like Kingman, Arizona, and kind of like, you know, like in the middle of nowhere. Atlanta's nice too, you know?
Yeah, but again, see, now what's nice about Atlanta is, you know, you're in the city, but you don't have to drive really all that far to get to the country, you know?
Yeah. And I think that people think that I don't hang around in the city. So like, people go, oh wow, did you see the touristy stuff? And I'm like, no. I'm like out in like the weird sticks part of Atlanta, or I went to Conyers, Georgia, and because we filmed the first series of Dukes of Hazzard and Cannonball Run and Smokey the Bandit there. I mean, fuck, you got to go and visit that. You know, like,
yeah.
I don't know many cities that I really want to see things. I want to see the Brooklyn Bridge. I thought that was amazing, right? But otherwise, yeah.
Once you see it, you've seen it.
Yeah, thanks. Seen that. Cheers. Like, I really enjoyed the drive out of New York and seeing all the huge buildings and it just freaks me out that so many people live so close to each other. I don't know how you New Yorkers do it.
Well, like I said, where I grew up was 60 miles outside of Midtown Manhattan. People in the city think where I grew up, like there are just cows roaming the streets, which it's not. It's suburbs. It's, you know, but it's starting to get really packed up there with people. You know, it's an island. It's 119 miles long. It's 26 miles wide. It's not that big. You can only go so far before you have to start building up. And the east end is starting to get too full.
It's huge. Like in New York City, you're never far away from a person. And you, like, being like a kind of introvert, like, I guess that would freak you out as much as it freaks me out. Like, I need like a little bit of space and time, like, not but like in everybody's grill.
See, you know, now if I'm going into New York City, I'm going in because I got a show at one of the clubs. I'm doing a stand-up show at one of the clubs. So I go in, I do my thing, and then I go back out to the country.
I bet that's amazing, though. That must be a hell of a buzz going to do stand-up in the middle of New York City. Holy shit, man. That must be awesome.
Dude, one of my bucket list items, one of my comedy idols. We're on overtime, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. So we're off the air on Internet Radio Network. One of my comedy idols is Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh
I
yeah,
love
awesome.
Rodney.
Yeah.
Love Rodney. One of the highlights of my career was performing on stage at his club, which has since closed. It didn't survive COVID.
Oh shit.
At that point in time, it wasn't considered an A-list club, but it was fucking Dangerfields. Like my first experience in life with stand-up comedy was watching the Young Comedian special that was on HBO back in the early 80s, where it was guys like Bob Saget, Bob Nelson, Jerry Seinfeld, all these big name comedians these days, which they got their starts on that same stage. And to be there and feel the energy in that room, it was insane. Absolutely insane.
That must be that. Yeah, I can imagine that would be a bucket list thing, and that's the same, I guess, as when I wander around London and people that do gigs in London and stuff like that. It's just amazing. Well, it must be amazing to do that. I watch Seinfeld quite a lot actually, when he does the that big Cars and Coffee. Sorry, I'm just opening a beer.
That's right.
Now, so.
Cheers. Oh, you could drink up. We're still on YouTube, so you can drink. I don't give a shit about being demonetized.
Well, I was going to drink anyway, but it was just kind of like I figured that was as good excuse as anything to go grab a beer and just carry on.
Works for me, man. Cheers.
Cheers. So yeah, I mean, it must be a hell of a buzz because I've done the same. I've watched things on TV and I'm like, oh my god! And New York is like that, isn't it? You turn up and you go, wow, the Brooklyn Bridge. Like we took a photo under it down in Dumbo. That was where John Ficarra used to start the 2904. We should probably talk about some racing things. Like he started the 2904. He used to go down there for film shoots. Like we'd shoot like before he took out the 2904. You'd park everybody up. We'd take shots in Dumbo. And I was like, whoa, the Brooklyn Bridge. Like, whoa, like, like, holy shit. It's like, we're really here. I feel like genuinely like a superstar, It was like, whoa.
Now, here's a fun fact. I don't know. You may not have thought you were going to learn something today, but you're going to learn something. On the Brooklyn Bridge, in the abutments that reinforce the bridge and hold the cables, there are wine cellars on both sides. That when the bridge was being built, they had to take land that belonged to these two wine companies. So the trade-off was, as part of building the bridge, they had to build wine cellars for these guys to use so they didn't interfere with their business. So they don't use them anymore, but there are wine cellars on each side of the Brooklyn Bridge.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you imagine what it would have been like back in those days when they were building New York?
Oh, insane. It's to see that city now. I mean, I lived in New York, prior to September 11th. I lived there, and to see the reconstruction of Ground Zero and just how mind-bogglingly huge that building is. I can only imagine back in when there were no skyscrapers and the Chrysler building first went up, and that was the tallest building. And then the Empire State Building went up, and that's the tallest building. Then the original World Trade Center, and just to see that evolution firsthand had to be absolutely incredible.
I mean, I go there and I find it incredible how much of a city it is, because it really is I mean, London's the same, because New York is London's the same type of thing. When you go to London, it's been a city forever. It's the same sort of feelings when you go to New York, because you're like, whoa, this is crazy. I can't believe they've built it like this. It's so all over the shop and so huge, and it's literally concreted from wall to wall. It's mind blowing because I live in a small country town.
And what's even more mind blowing is how much of the city you see above the street level. There's so much below it. It's when you see like the infrastructure, and New York City still provides steam to buildings for heat. There's steam. It's just it's crazy how much of the city is below the city, below the street.
Is there still Chuds there? Have you seen the film Chud? Yeah, no. You haven't seen the film Chud? Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. It was an 80s B movie. It was hysterical.
Well, you know what? In New York City, it probably exists.
Oh, it was the same Escape from New York, right?
Yeah. Now that one,
man, that's a hell of a movie. That really is like that. I remember watching that and being like, wow, I can't still figure out how Carpenter did that. But I used to love all those 80s 70s and 80s New York films, where they'd be like The Exterminator and all those kind of films, and they'd be in like the middle of the ghetto of New York, and Bobby Womack, not Bobby Womack, across 110th Street. Like all the sort of black exploitation flicks, Superfly and everything they shot in New York, right? And watching that was like, wow, Shaft is New York as well, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Like all the cities run together in my head after a while, but what a crazy place that was then. Like Death Wish, when they went out and they shot all the films in the real like underbelly of New York. It was like, whoa, what? That's like in a city? Like Fort Apache, the Bronx.
Yep.
Like, wow, that city's been through some changes, right?
Oh yeah, and the history and the history that's been preserved. Like you walk around and you can still, like Fraunce's Tavern, which was part of the early American organization when they were first organizing. Fraunce's Tavern still exists. It's crazy, still. Right? You can go in and walk on the floor that George Washington walked on, and it's just and it's right next to a building that was built within the past 100 years. So it's like you have this old history right next to the new history, and it flows and it makes sense, which is crazy.
Yeah. I guess London's similar, but it's just old history. So if you go to certain parts of London, it's just old history. Like it's not like there's lots of parts of Britain you go there and you go to a pub and it's like, oh, this pub's been around since 1500, and you're like, what? I can't even imagine it.
Well, what's funny is in Ireland, I was just watching a video on this the other day. There's the oldest business in Ireland. Do you know what the oldest business in Ireland is?
It's got to be a pub. It has to be a pub.
It's a pub. It's a bar called Sean's Bar. That's the name of the place, and it is the oldest business in Ireland. And it's been around. I forget when it was first founded in the same location. Now, the building is not original, but it has existed as a pub for hundreds of years. It's crazy.
I used to drink in a pub, right? And this is completely true. I used to drink in a pub called the First and Last Pub. So it's the first and the last pub in Britain, and it's right down the bottom end of Penzance, St. Ives. It's like way down the bottom of the country. It's right, like Land's End is where it's at. And in there's a hole in the floor with a piece of glass over it, and you stand on it when you order drinks over the bar, and that goes into the caverns underneath where they used to smuggle booze, pirates, right? Like actual pirates, like full-fledged. And the owner of the pub told the local authorities about them smuggling, and they burnt them to death outside the pub. And that's like the history of it written on the wall. It's like, holy shit. Good God. Holy shit. Yeah, like, holy shit. I've been drinking a pub that's been around that long. And in the corner of the pub, I'm going to try and tell you this without telling you the secret. I might tell you the secret later, but there's like, in the corner of the pub, there's a feed manger, because it used to be a pub that was for overnight coach stays. So, like in the old days of on the coach would come there, trade the horses and stay overnight. And and then fresh horses in the morning. Now the feed stables in it. And in the corner of the pub, there's a feed thing right up in the corner, like right in the corner of the pub. There's a hay feeding thing. And the challenge for locals, and this is only locals do it, is you've got to squeeze yourself. It's tight against the wall. You've got to squeeze yourself through the hay thing and up and through it. It's like a game they play.
Okay.
You've got to take the coins out of your pocket. Me and you, we ain't doing that. When I was younger, I gave it a go. I got part of my shoulder in it. I was like, no, claustrophobia. And it's like you have to jam yourself through it. And that's the game we used to play, doesn't it? And they've been playing that game for like 400 years.
Wow.
It's that's like, whoa. Crazy. And they're like, one night we're all drinking there. They were like, you lot seem like you're a pretty brave bunch of guys. You want to see if you could fit through that? And a couple of us did, A couple of the girls and a couple of the super skinny guys managed to get themselves through it.
All right. That's awesome.
It's just really, it's like, we've been playing this game for like 400 years. It's like, oh, okay. Like awesome,
And hopefully they play it for another 400.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they still do it even now. I mean, that pub will be open forever. I mean, it's a little pub in the middle of nowhere, and that's where everybody drinks. Like all the locals, all the tourists, everybody just drinks in the same place because it's a little tiny pub with nothing else to do there.
See, now what's funny, you had mentioned Jaws earlier. And actually, you mentioned Jaws 4 with my cocaine. in Montauk, you know that the original Jaws story was actually based on a real captain that was a shark that went after sharks.
No,
His name was Frank Mundus, and he was
no way.
he used to run a boat out of Montauk. I actually met the guy a couple times. Complete fucking whack job. Dude was nuts. He had his toenails painted red and green, so when he was drunk, he knew which was port and which was starboard. I'm not even that was this dude. But I ran into him. We saw him. We used to charter a fishing boat out of Montauk every year, and I forget the name of the bar, but it was like the only bar in town he was still allowed in because he was just a disaster. But in the bar, in this one booth, if you sit in the booth and you look up, there was a skylight, but around the skylight was the jawbone of the shark that he caught that the story of Jaws was based on.
Man, that's incredible.
Yeah, Frank, he passed away. I think Frank passed away in like 2009, 2010. But
man, the world is full of such great places, right? That's the best thing about going to random little places, right? Just being able to go and like find something like that. Like, oh yeah, there's a skylight there with the jawbone from the shark, and people will be like, but that's something you never get to see. The only reason I started doing any YouTube stuff is because, like a lot of stuff, you never get to like. I've started documenting people's car collections, and when they die, their car collections get broken up, and then nobody ever gets to see it.
yeah.
You know? Like, and it's a shame because people have collected for 30 or 40 years. So I started just videoing them, and like some of the cars are junk, you know, and some of the places I go because people are like, oh, actually, I used to start doing the cars are junked because I'm like, well, this is the last time you'll ever see this. It's off, right? So it's like it's rotten, it's rusty, you can't repair it. It'll never be seen again. So I'll just document it's on the way. And then everybody starts saying, well, I'd like to see some of the stuff you see. Because there's so much out there in the world to go and look at.
Oh yeah.
And what you've got to do is just go and do it.
Yeah.
And everybody's got a story. Like YouTube could be filled with people doing like little stories of stuff that they go and see. And everybody will be blown away by it. But you need to go and do it, like people need to go, like, it's a really interesting thing. I'd love to do something where a travel channel where people kind of like actually go traveling, go and see these random little things. I mean, who really wants to go and see the Empire State Building one more time, or like walk over the Golden Gate Bridge, or kind of like, I mean, I want to go and see these little places, and that's what I enjoy. That's why I enjoy getting off the route and kind of like hanging around with people, and people go, hey, come and have a look at this weird thing.
Because you never know when you're going to find, you never know when you're going to find a 61 Cadillac hearse, Well,
exactly that. That's exactly that. Or like you'll find something you'll want to go and see. Like you'll find like, I don't know, somebody will say, oh yeah, my dad's buried a Buick. Or actually around here, somebody's like, oh yeah, my dad buried 2 Jags as a pair of gateposts back in the 70s. I'm like, wow, let's go check that out. So I just like turned up and we went and had a look at it. It was like super cool. Like, cause he was like, yeah, they're unreliable pieces of junk. I hated them. So I didn't want to sell them. So I just used them as gateposts for the farm.
Similar story to that. This is crazy. And I found, so if anybody hears a story, don't go looking for it because it doesn't exist anymore. Many years ago, when I was still living on Long Island, I worked at a hotel up in Port Jefferson called Danford's. And there was this guy that used to walk around every morning. He had a Cane Corso, a big Mastiff, big, scary looking dog. He would walk like 5 o'clock in the morning. This dude, long, straggly hair, was always filthy. He'd be walking around like 2 broken cinder blocks, working out as he walked with an old school cassette Walkman. And this is in like, the 2007. He's walking around with a cassette deck Walkman. And nobody knew who this guy was, but he'd walk this dog off leash. The dog would stay by him, never would bark, never would charge at anybody. And he came into our marina one day. We had a marina that held, I think we had like 90 slips or something like that. And he came in, he's like, I have 6 boats. I'm thinking about docking one of them here. It's a 65-foot Hatteras, which is a really nice fishing boat. And we're like, yeah, this is what it's going to cost. Okay, sure. That dude came in with cash and docked one of his 6 boats there. And then I started like learning about this guy, and somebody's like, yeah, he's got a giant dick and balls in paver stones on his driveway. I'm like, that's shit. I'm like, no fucking way. So one day I had to go up to his house for something, and sure as shit, I pulled in his driveway. There's a giant dick and balls on his driveway with I wish I was making this up, man. A giraffe statue where his driveway split. So I go in the house, and his house is immaculate. It looks like a museum. Everything is beautiful, painted white, real hardwood floors, not that cheap laminate shit. But in his living room, there's two Harley Davidson Sportsters in his living room parked on the hardwood floor, and they're beautiful bikes. So I said to him, like, it's kind of crazy, man. The house is immaculate, but you got motorcycles in the living room. Oh, yeah, I got motorcycles in the living room. I'd have Al Capone's car in my basement. I'm like, well, what? Time out. What? Now, this dude, like, I got to know him over the years, crazy as shit, but he had the wildest stories. And there was always somebody that was like, yep, I was there. It happened. So yeah. I'm like, Al Capone's car in your basement? I'm biting. Let's go see it. He brings me. Now, he didn't have any paperwork saying this was Al Capone's car, but it was old enough and it looked correct. Right next to it was a 1983 Mercedes 500 SL convertible with the window sticker on it.
Oh, sorry about that. I just got call me.
Oh, that's all right. If you need to go, you can go.
No, it's all good. No, it's fine. No, yeah.
So right next to this Al Capone's car is a beautiful, pristine, with the window sticker on it, Mercedes SL convertible. But I'm looking around this basement. There's no garage door. There's no ramp. There's no lift there. I'm like, how'd you get these things in here? It's like, well, I wanted to put an extension on the house. The village wouldn't give me a permit. So I drove a bulldozer through the side of the house and figured while the wall's open, I'll put the cars down here so I know where they are. This dude was a nut job.
But
no way to get.
I guess that's a good point, isn't it? I mean, I guess that he kind of like, he'll always have those cars at that point in time.
Exactly. Well, he moved out, and I don't know if he ever got the cars. I haven't spoken to him in years. But the interesting part of this was, I told you, when you pull in, there's the cock and balls on the driveway, and there's a giraffe statue. I mean, a giant, had to be 20, 25-foot giraffe statue right in the middle where the driveway split. Well, in the giraffe statue, there was a camera and a motion sensor. If you were standing at the bottom of his driveway, the motion sensor would sense you, the camera would start recording, and there was a sprinkler on the tip of the dick that would pee on you.
That's amazing.
And I wish I was making this up, man, but I saw this with my own eyes.
That's why did he? What was the story behind it? Did he ever tell you, or did he just kind of like?
I asked him. I'm like, why? You know, this is a beautiful house in a very high-end neighborhood. I'm like, why? And this guy was a self-made. He owned a paving company, and he said, "I've worked my ass off. I've made a shitload of money, and I just want to do whatever the fuck I want, and I can pay attorneys to take care of it." I'm like, you know what? That's probably the best answer. I can't argue with you. You win. It's
like people have got some amazing stuff out there. Like I've been to like people's car museums, I've been to people's houses, I've been to people's garages, and they've got all this great stuff tucked away, like really super eccentric people. And it's like they never get seen. That's the only reason we started like videoing stuff, like really. And because if you'd have videoed that, people would have been like, what the hell? You know, and that's the kind of like, yeah.
Well, now as time ticks on, being able to document that stuff, like some of those cars, you know, that I keep going back to the hearse because I love hearses because I got a twisted sense of humor, but that one was just so badass. Cars like that, I don't think I have ever in my life seen one in good condition on the road. So
there's a very small number of them that actually run and are used.
Yeah. And you know, so to preserve that history and be able to share it with people who never would have seen it, you know, otherwise, you know, it's
getting tougher now, right? It's not getting easier. Like cars are disappearing. People are on like, but the people are disappearing too. Like a lot of these old boys with big collections, like you can't do that anymore. Nobody's got the room or the space or the time or the spare income to do it. And we closed one down called Star Garage. And I turned up just as the lady was breaking it up. And her old man had died in COVID. Not from COVID. He'd actually died just before it, but she couldn't get over for a couple of years. So she was taking it apart. And I went, do you mind if I come down and video it? She said, no, I'd love you to. So I came down, I videoed it, walked around, showed the whole collection, ended up buying one of the cars like later on. But I said, you know, it's such a great thing to see because if your old man collected it, he was one man who collected everything. You know, and he just bought what he wanted. He just bought random crazy stuff. And then the stories that came out of it were just amazing. You know, people would ring me and they'd be like, "Oh man, I really like saw you were down gyms and I used to hang out with them every Saturday." And like the stuff on the wall, that was an R32 Skyline like race spoiler, and you know they were pointing out the bits and pieces, and they said their photos of me, him, and with that car that was being his dad, you know, my dad, and it was really cool. And there's so much of that which is disappearing now, and you'll never get to see it unless you document it. So that's what I started doing. People say, "Hey, you need to go and have a look at this." So I've gone and see it, but then of course randomly you turn up at stuff anyway. You know, I just bought a pile of cars. Well, I haven't even like stuck it up yet. I will do at some point in time. Me and a friend of mine were in Barstow, and he said I was only there for like a couple of days, and he said, "Oh, you should come and have a look at." He builds monster trucks and stuff, like literally truck rods and things. So he builds these huge, like massive. He's got a V16 Detroit 2V, so it's a two-stroke, two 871 blowers and 4 turbos on it in a truck. Yeah, it's amazing. He's just like he builds these amazing rods. Anyway, so me and him were chatting. I said, "Well, look, every time you sell a car, you should buy an old car and put another car in the field because it's Barstow and nothing ever rusts. So if you get a chance to buy something old, why don't you just buy it and put it in the field? Because you know it's going to be worth something. And eventually, the values are just going to keep climbing on some of this stuff because it's rare."
Oh yeah.
So there was an ad, and it was like a couple of Mercury Cougars and some other bits and pieces. I said, "Come, let's go and have a look." So we went down and we bought 6 cars off this guy.
Jesus.
You know, and it was like, yeah, we turned up, we were like, "Hey," but the house we bought them from, it was a family of drag racers back in the 70s and the 80s. And all of the cars that they bought and, you know, raced and like stripped parts off, because a lot of the cars were stripped out. The 2 Cougars I bought, the engines and transmissions have gone, and they've gone into another car. That's what they did. They just drag raced them, put them in other cars, and moved on. But the family, the only people left alive is the mother, who's in the 90s, and the sisters who's in the 70s. And they just given up the house and got rid of it. And all these cars are just littered around the property. And we bought like a heap of them because the city run is back to get rid of them. You know, because they're in like, I don't know why you would be an eyesore in the middle of the desert, to be fair. Like, but you know, people get what people are like. So we bought a few of those. But those places are disappearing. They're drying up. You don't go to places now where there's these huge scrap yards I used to visit in the 90s. They've gone because when the price of scrap went up, people just emptied them out. They were like, "Oh my God, my yard's worth $1 million in scrap. Bye." Poof, gone. And the big old heavy cars are the ones that go first.
Oh yeah.
So it's not quite the same. There's still a lot of stuff out there, but it's not like
it's getting
you visit
rarer.
people's houses and they've got signs and neon and things like that. But it's just not there anymore. A lot, like a lot of these buildings in even like are just being torn down because they're vacant. You know, like especially in the California end of 66. I don't know what's going on there, but something's going on that's not good. You know, like lots of tourists have been down as well since the COVID thing closed a lot of businesses down, I think.
Yeah, also California kind of runs their state a little crazy, so it's driving some people away.
Maybe, or like, is it the taxes? I don't know what it is. I don't like. I just don't know what's going on.
I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's just it's a combination of a lot of things. It's taxes. It's stiff regulation. If you want to, if you have an old building that you want to restore, now you got to go through all these municipal committees and get approvals and environmental impact studies. So a lot of times, instead of restoring a building, if it's not been designated as historic, they just knock it down and build something new. Gentrification. It's a wonderful thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's still an amazing place. I mean, like a lot of people are down on California and LA as well, but it still is an amazing place in parts. I mean, Redondo, I stayed there not so long ago, and I walked around town at night. I had a few beers down in the middle of the town, and sort of like there's a little pier down there, which is really cool. And it's pretty historic and it hasn't changed a lot. It's fairly cheap. I'm drinking in a bar, and you could be drinking in any town bar from 1970 to 1990. Like they're playing Twisted Sister on the radio on Ozzy Osbourne. Like the bar's full of like stuff nailed to the walls. Like it's right on the pier. Beer was cheap. The food was awesome. I got some kind of cheap burger from there. And
that's the way it should be.
Yeah, it was great. It was like right by the sea, like Redondo. Like they keep saying they're going to redevelop all the pier and they're going to change it. And there's some cheap fast food restaurants and stuff there. Like when I say fast food, like you pick your crab and they cook it for you and all that kind of jazz. You'd love it. Honestly, you'd have a great time. Like you really would. it's kind of gentrifying bit by bit, but not. It hasn't gone yet. But when I walk back in the night, people are still sitting having barbecues in their little California tract houses, you know, and I don't know what, they must be worth $1 million or something there, right? But it's
Oh yeah.
like they were sitting having chatting around, drinking beers on the porch, you know, and it's still a nice place to be. Like, goddamn, like if you're a millionaire, you can understand why you'd be there. You know what I mean?
Oh
You
yeah.
still get to live by the sea and hang out with your mates, and it's the sort of the middle of town, but it isn't. Do you know what I mean?
I got you.
Same as New York, I guess. There must be places in New York and the same kind of enclaves, I guess, where you really enjoy, like a lot of Long Island. Like
Yeah.
people have lived there for decades and decades and decades, and it's still real nice. But I think it probably has a finite time where it's going to still be like that before it starts really gentrifying it.
Well, it's starting to, and what happened, it starts in the city and then creeps its way out to the East End, and the Hamptons. You've been out to the Hamptons, I'm sure, and you haven't met the Hamptons. It's all.
Yeah, I've heard about
okay.
it.
So you've heard about it. So the South Fork of Long Island is the Hamptons, and very big houses, big money. The North Fork is more rural. There's a lot of wineries, but it's gotten to the point where, especially in the fall, through October, November, it's super touristy. But it's an island, so you're limited. There's two main roads that run east-west out there, and that's it. So, traffic is just insane, bumper to bumper, inching. It's way too overcrowded to really be. But I mean, when I grew up there, I'm 45 years old. So I grew up there through the 80s, and it was very community. Everybody knew everybody in the neighborhoods, and the whole family lived there. So it was, we'd go to this one's house for a barbecue this weekend through the summer, and then they'd come over our house. Everybody would come to our house for the holidays. So there was a strong sense of family, strong sense of community up there at the time, which is kind of starting to fall apart. I mean, we moved out. My in-laws still live up there. My mom moved down here. My brother's still up there. He's a fire chief up on Long Island. And, so now everybody's spread out. So I still go up there, and there's still some of that growing up feel, the feeling of my youth and the way everything was. But at the same time, it's so different and so crowded, and, it's weird. Weird is the best way to describe it.
I think a lot of people have moved out of the cities now for like various reasons, I guess. But so I've been going to Kingman, Arizona for years, and it's a little desert town, and it's always been slightly struggling and not doing great. It's downtown's a little bit rough, but when I say rough, I mean it's deserted, not like rough as in it wasn't that great. But over the last few times I've been there, especially now, lots of people have moved there. And it's actually getting a resurgence, and they actually care about the town. They put some new neon up, like the museums run really well. It's it's really doing quite well. And they're all people that have moved out there from California and places.
Okay.
It's changing. So I think a lot of people are moving out to these little small towns again because they want a sense of community in that again.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people from New York are moving down here to Florida. I know a lot of people from California moving to Arizona and Texas. So it's kind of like we're at like a point in time in this country where people are just shifting around, trying to find a new place to lay roots down. Yeah,
I've just been cruising through Missouri, and I went to I went to Sarcoxy and sort of Golden City. I've got a friend that lives there, Paul Cruz, and he's a storyteller. So I really wanted to go and visit it because he tells stories about this every day in this little cafe. It's a little farm cafe in the middle of nowhere called Cookies, and it's really great. I really wanted to go there because he tells stories about it, like Norman Rockwell, like a normal Rockwell painting. You know what I mean? It's like a beautiful slice of Americana. And he works in a grain store. He tells stories about it every day. And I went down there. I knew the people in the cafe.
Just from his stories.
Just from his stories. And it was great. And then we sat on the town square in the next little town, Sarcoxy, and it was like there's Larry Velton's appliance shop. And he sits outside on a deck chair with his mates, and they have a couple of beers, or they chat around and they talk about stuff. And I got there and I went and I sat down with those guys. I had a great time. The little sort of town square, all sat outside with your mate. And I thought, this is great. And he was saying that the town is really super cheap to move to. And I find that amazing. I love the fact that people still do what they did in the old days. Do you know what I mean?
And we kind of need more of that, to be honest with you.
I think it's probably for the best. I kind of hope there's going to be a resurgence of that, where people kind of like take over some of these small towns and they do them up. And it's always been one of my dreams to take over like a slightly dying small town and kind of bring it back up to spec, where you can just have some fun in it. Because we're all getting a bit older, and I kind of want to hang around with my mates more. We all now talk about buying like a small rundown town and just moving there together, so we're all within like a golf cart's distance of each other.
Well, they do that now here in Florida.
I bet they do, yeah. I bet they do. It's like I think it would be a different community to us, lot of gearheads. I mean, we're some charges around the town square on a Saturday night.
Well, there's a couple of communities I saw advertised. I forget exactly where they are, but they're in the Florida area, where it's like, they're
building
almost like a road course type racetrack with almost what's that?
Sold. I'm in.
Well, and like they're building barn dominium. You know what a barn dominium is?
No.
It's a not necessarily new style of construction, but it's a currently popular style, where it's basically like a metal prefab building that's, looks almost industrial on the outside, but the interiors they do up really, really nice. And, huge garages for your car collection, and you can go out and run it on the track and, shit like that. But like those communities are super expensive.
Yeah. We could do a budget version.
There we go. With trailers instead of barn dominiums.
you just buy a little deserted town out in the desert somewhere for like literally pennies, man. They are like, the banks will just about give you the houses because they don't want to pay taxes on them anymore.
Well, they don't want to pay taxes on them anymore. And the problem with getting people out to a lot of those small communities is that there's no jobs. Jobs are hard to come by.
Yeah. Well, I guess so. But I suppose the more people, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, though, right? If you go there and you live there, then you'll create jobs there eventually. But you got to do that for a while. Or you got to get people to come in off the highway to there.
Field of dreams, man. If you build it, they will come.
It's like I've got a little neon town in the middle of nowhere. I always like Tucumcari. Tucumcari's amazing. I think they used to have 240 hotels or something ridiculous.
Wow.
Just incredible. And loads of neon and everything. And it was like a sort of dying town. I don't know how much it's come back up again, but there were some great places where people built hotels there. And they were phenomenal. Like the Safari Inn is run by a lot of people that love the place. And it's like a sort of like a mid-60s, mid-century modern. That's the word I was looking for. They've done it like that. And it's really cool. Like they look after it. And there's the Blue Swallow, which is the same deal. That's 1940s looking, and they're packed every night. So maybe that's what we need. We need more road trips, and that's what people need to do. They need to get out there and see the country and do some stuff. Don't sit around. I agree, man. Yeah, road trips. Bring road trips back. Make the road trip great again.
That's it. That's what I said earlier, man. Make America drive again. It's
Well, I think you'd enjoy it a lot more. I think like a lot of Americans are kind of really bored with the idea that you live in a city, it's like, it's hard. You meet thousands of people every day. It's really hard to be friendly to everybody. You go back to your neighborhood, which will be, you may or may not come out of it. I mean, people now live on the phone and stuff in their houses. They come back, they'll watch a pile of TV, and they don't get out and meet people like in the old neighborhoods. Like me here in New Zealand, like every Friday night I have a movie night with my neighbor. So I go around here and we it's really funny. Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery used to work in a movie shop together. They had a video store. And when
it was a Blockbuster video.
Yeah. And when they closed the video, that was Hollywood Video, I think. And they closed the video store. Quentin Tarantino bought all of the films in there, right? Every film. So good, bad, whatever. And he put them all in storage. And now him and Roger Avery pick out 2 films every week and they watch them. Right?
That's awesome.
They criticize them and stuff. Some of them are terrible crap. And some of them are brilliant, So we started doing the same 2 films, me and my neighbor. So I go around his house and we watch the same 2 films together, whatever they watch it. We watched, I think it was The Big Birdcage and Demonoid last week. And goddamn, Demonoid is terrible. Like it's it's a possessed hand from a Mexican mine. It's astounding. Like, it really is like awful. But yeah, it was great. Like, we had a really good night just watching random films from the video shop. But I think that's kind of what people need to do. They need to form more of a community together. Like, we used to work on our cars together. You know, you remember back in the old days, you would all work on each other's cars. You would like,
Oh yeah,
yeah. Back in the 90s, you'd have some old car that didn't work, so you'd go around your mate's house and you'd pull the starter motor and fix it for him, or pull the carburetor or the dizzy or whatever and fix it. And that's how you got to know all of your friends and neighbors. It's what we did, especially as car guys. And now it's really hard to do that, especially with like housing association houses and stuff like that, where, you know, HOAs, they call them, don't they? Housing owners associations or whatever. Yeah, like where you can't even park a car on your driveway that doesn't work. I mean, fuck those guys. Who would want to live there? You know?
That's my only regret of living where I live, is I live in a community that's an HOA.
Oh my God. If I lived there, can you imagine what would happen? I'd have a pink house, I'd have burnouts in the charges outside. I'd cause mayhem. I'd have a dick and balls on my driveway. I'd be that kind of guy, you know?
I cause as much mayhem as possible. We had a barbecue one time. One of my buddies, an Army vet, he ended up running up and down the street wearing nothing but a Gadsden flag, the yellow flag with the snake on it, says "Don't tread on me." That's all he was wearing was the Gadsden flag around him, running up and down the street yelling.
I bet that went down fantastically well. Did you get a letter?
One neighbor didn't like it. Everybody else thought it was hilarious.
Exactly. As long as everybody's kind of on the same. I don't mind the fact that everyone wants to live together as long as you're all on the same page. We talk about this, like I said, all the time. And it's like we're a bunch of gearheads and we basically want to live somewhere where we can kind of like quite literally do burnouts in a neighborhood. You know,
if you build it, they will come. Come on.
A gates closed community where you're like, sorry guys, like what happens here? Like we could do burnouts and stuff like that. As long as nobody's stupid, right? And like wants to race through town at 110 mile an hour. But if you want to,
that's what
Casey let loose, you should be able to.
There's a YouTuber. You probably know who he is, guy Cletus McFarland.
I've seen him on the racetrack. Yeah,
that racetrack is about an hour away from where I live. I've been down there for a couple of events.
Why haven't you done that? You love Panther Platform Crown Vics. Like you're always doing that kind of stuff. You're always racing Vics. Why haven't you gone to Cletus's yet? I was like, I haven't got an invite.
Well, let's see what we can hook up. I mean, shit.
I would definitely go and do that. Big red, white, and blue American flag car. I'd be down with that.
But that's why he bought the place. I mean, he bought it. It's right next to the drag strip. It was falling apart when he bought it. They put a ton of money. He bought it at the absolute wrong time. They bought it right as COVID was hitting. So it's kind of hard to have a venue that requires people to show up and spend money when you can't have people show up and spend money. But let me tell you, I used to work at the racetrack up in New York, going to his track for an event. And I was there last year for the 2.4 hours of Le Mullets. We were there for the hell was the other one? The Freedom 500. It has that small track feel, the vibe in the air. It's just, even if you come up to see an event at that place, it is worth it. Now, obviously, you could probably get a ride in one of his Crown Vics. He needs more cannonballers in there. I got to be honest. These guys, you get regular round racers. We need some cannonballers in there. But
I actually watched the Freedom 500 because it was Derek Bieri from Vice Grip Garage was in it. And I thought that's just such a great idea. Like a real grassroots racing, turn up at Crown Vics, have a laugh, 3 shots a night, just get out
there. Dude, it is absolutely insane. What he's done with that place and what he does is absolutely incredible. And like I said, I'm lucky enough to live an hour away. So whenever he's got an event that I don't have anything going on, he's got one actually coming up next weekend, which I'm not gonna be able to make. I got shit with my kids, but he's done a great job. So see if you can get a hold of him and get in there.
Yeah, maybe over the next year or so, I'll give it a go. I've got one more Canada run I think I'm going to do. And what are we doing next year? There's a few things on next year. I think I might be, I've got a few things to do next year. So hopefully I'll be back and forth a couple of times and they'll coincide together. And I'll be able to go and do that. I'll probably end up doing the Southern Classic this year, I guess, with Taylor Hull and stuff. That'll be fun.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
But there's so many great things to do. I think the problem you've got is that liability and people freaking out about everything at the moment. Like, like throwing cars off a cliff is like the worst thing you can do. It kind of isn't. We kind of really got to get back to having a bit more fun and being a bit more easygoing. And, I think the whole year since COVID, or the last, well, it's been a year, not even a year for us. Like, everybody's just so fed up of this regulation bullshit. We just want to kind of get it and just have some fun again.
Do some crazy shit.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Like, life's too short. Like, you can't just sit around and kind of like stay on the tube all day. You really need to go out and do stuff. Like, I really want to go and do some more traveling. I mean, I've got in front of me, I've got like a pile of Route 66 books I've been reading. You're like, oh, I wonder if I've not been there yet. I've never seen that big whale, the blue whale. I just want to go and see that.
The Route 66 is one of my bucket list things. I want to go up and make the run from Chicago and drive what's left of the road just to, just to do it. Same thing. Why I want to do a Cannonball, just to do it.
Well, that's all that you should require. That should be the only reason you need to do things, just to do it. Like when we talked about racing across the states, the best one that ever answered one of my questions. So I'll give you the three questions. They were the same question that Brock Yates used to use. And the first one was, why do you want to do a Cannonball? Right. So people would say it, and then what time do you want to achieve? Right. And if you get past those two markers, the third one was always, if you put a time that was under, should we say 37 hours, then I would say, how do you hope to achieve that time? Right. And that was the golden rule. That was a separator, because if you said, hey, I want to run 40 hours, I've always wanted to do Cannonball. Because we only did it because people who wanted to run a Cannonball were never going to get a chance to do it. So we did it as a one last chance that you could go and run a Cannonball with people and have some fun, and that was why we did it. So if you said, oh, hey, I just really wanted to run it. I love Brock Yates' stuff. I love the movie or whatever. And then he said, hey, I want to run 40 hours. Great. Cool. You're in. That was the only thing you really needed. But if you say, hey, I want to run 30 hours, then I'm like, hey, now I need to know way more about you.
Yeah.
If you're not just going to be a tourist on this, you're just out there for some fun, that's it. But the best answer I ever had was, I was like, what time do you hope to achieve? It was like, a good time.
Yes.
Instantaneous, like, you're in, like, no question about it. Like, that's why you should want to do it. You should want to do it to have a great time doing this. Do something that you've always wanted to do and have a fun time doing it. It doesn't matter about the time. You're not going to beat 25:39, right? You're just going to go out there and have a good time. Yeah. And doing Route 66 is the same too. You should just want to do it because you want to do it. Want to go and see something, you just want to go and see it. That's it. But it's all out there and it's all still currently available. But I fear the next 10 years or so, it might get harder.
Yeah, and that's why, to do something like that, it's, shit, good at the pot. Do it now while you still can.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us feel like that. I'm 47 now as well, and the world is a very changed place. Like, especially over the last few years, I know a lot of people are kind of, getting a bit more off their phones and having a bit more time for themselves and stuff like that. And they kind of need to. They need to, like, get out there and do some real stuff for themselves. And they don't need to video all of it. They just need to go out there and just enjoy it for what enjoy it. If you watch I watched the concerts where people are watching it through their phone. I'm thinking, dude, put your phone down. Like, there'll be a concert video somewhere, you can buy it. Like the old days, Yeah. You can buy it and watch it then, and then you'll have that. But recording this the whole way through, you just don't need to do it. Just be present. Be present in the now. And then
enjoy it.
And enjoy it, yeah. And I think if you can stick to that, that's a pretty good way of doing stuff, right?
I think it's a perfect way to think, man.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we're going to wrap up. We've gone almost 3 hours, man.
Man, and I was worried we were going to go an hour. I was like, God damn, I'm going to run out of stories, and that's the end of that.
Man, there are some people that you could just keep going with. You're one of those guys.
Well, it's the same. Actually, it's really enjoyable. It's nice to talk to you. And it's been really good to we've gone way off the path, and we probably haven't talked about half the things we probably should have. And I've probably forgotten more than I was going to talk about anyway, but that doesn't really matter. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you guys out there in Internet Land enjoyed it. And I hope you're all now about to go and visit the Spam Museum.
Hell yeah, man. Now that's on the list. I gotta. So,
I'm waiting. I'm Publix fried chicken, man, all the way. I can't wait. The next time I see a Publix, I'm straight to the door for the fried chicken.
it's delicious. So
I mean,
the good folks in internet land, they can find you on YouTube. Your channel is King's Country Towing and Recovery. Yes.
yeah, King Country Towing and Salvage. Yeah. So, but if you type in King Country, like you'll find us straight away. It's like a little New Zealand channel. It's always a bit of fun, you know. We don't take anything seriously, obviously.
You can't, dude. These days, you don't take anything seriously. It's just not worth the hassle. Enjoy, laugh at everything, smile, have fun. That's it.
Yeah, everybody was like trying to give me advice on how to do it and stuff, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've got no idea. I'm just pointing the camera at things. If it works out, it works out. That's the way it goes. And they're like, how do you edit it? I was like, I don't. No editing, no scripting. Like it is what it is. That's it.
You know what? And that's that raw. You know, the raw video is probably better than if you tried to edit it and make it clean with transitions and all that shit. Nah, just be you, man.
I don't even know what a transition is. This is the problem.
Exactly. You don't need to. You're doing fine. Just keep going.
Well, you know, when it stops being fun, I'll probably stop doing it. That's the truth of it. But it's just kind of like, at the minute, it's a lot of fun. Like, we don't really edit it. I don't really back around with it. I'm going to have to try and do something like upgrade from pointing my phone at things to maybe a camera and maybe some better audio. But whatever, man. It's just meant to be fun anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Hey, as long as the people are liking what you're doing, just keep doing.
Yeah, man. Awesome. It's been really nice to be on the show with you. So, like, it's been
Likewise.
good to meet you and talk to you. And, you know, anytime.
Yeah, man.
You should come over and visit New Zealand. I'll take you around some fried chicken in New Zealand places.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Seafood.
I'd love to.
Man, it's all seafood here. The seafood is to die for.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we can catch
seafood,
it.
I eat it.
Yeah.
See, that's doesn't get any fresher than that.
No, and that's like literally that's a thing here. People are like, oh man, we're just gonna go out the boat, catch some food, and then we'll kind of like have a barbecue afterwards.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ben, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Don't be a stranger.
No, always a pleasure. Just you can always keep up and keep in touch, and I'll catch up with you again. Thanks, Roger.
Likewise, man. Take care.
All the best, mate. See ya.
Take care.